Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with another live video for you. It is Friday. That means it's time for the Friday Lounge. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for another fun show. Should be good. We've got a pretty packed panel, so let's start by introducing them. I called today Friday Lounge number 15 Space Crack, obviously in honor of yesterday's presentation by Rodrigo Ferrari Noon. So let's start with him. Rodrigo, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jaron. Thank you for having me. I didn't even realize this till this moment, so this is pretty cool. Looking forward to see what happens. Thank you for having me. And
total plagiarism by me. So no, thank you. No, I did a stupid thing a long time ago when I first called the Friday Lounge, and I put the title. I used 2 words, so I've tried to keep that streak going, and it gets harder and harder each week to come up with 2 words to put as the title.
I mean, it makes sense to just continue the conversation, I guess, if you like. So
yeah, no,
see
it's
what
good.
The other panel members.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good. Got lots to talk about. We also have Bob from Globebusters joining us. Bob, what's up? How are you?
Doing just fine. It's a wonderful day in Colorado, nice and sunshiny, and it's warming up. Spring is in the air, and there's nothing like a little bit of space crack on a Friday.
Get your pipes ready. Let's load them up. Get our lighters ready. All right. We also have from the land down under, Iru Landucci. Iru, what's up?
Hello, Jaron. Hello, everyone. I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I'm super perfect.
So perfect.
And naked. Yeah.
And shirtless. We had to see that in the 5-minute pre-call. So maybe we'll have Eero turn on his
maybe.
later.
Let me see how the super chats are going, and if you are a little down, I can make my
so everybody
my
heard
space
that.
show.
If you want to see Eero shirtless, super chat.
Oh, yeah, we should just say, hey, the highest super chat gets a private Iru shirtless screening.
No, let's stop here. Okay?
No, we need to pimp.
Just
You need to pimp you, Eric.
Don't put ideas out there, okay? Please.
People are gonna think it's for real. And that's how crazy some people are.
Well, I don't think you were on the call when he was shirtless. I think you joined the Friday
I
Lounge.
was not. I missed.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was shirtless to start the show.
I've seen it before.
We're not kidding. It's a little bit better than the shower scenes that we've had to see. All right. Anyway, let me get back to the show here.
Let's try to keep this serious.
Yeah,
please,
let's keep this going in the right direction before we just go straight downhill and upside down, as Iru knows too well. We also have joining us Austin Whitsitt from Whitsitt Gets It. Austin, how are you? Thanks for the tongue twister every day trying to introduce you.
Yeah. You can just say Whitsitt, man. It's no big deal. But I'm doing good, man. Good, quick, beautiful Friday, ready to always down to ladle some gravy or soak in some gravy.
Awesome. Yeah, should be a fun show. Glad that you're joining us. And we also have for the first time on the Friday Lounge, but he's been on the show before, friend of the show. He's done a few presentations. Obviously, people know him from the Flat Earth Debates and his own channel, Ranty Flat Earth. We have Shane. Ranty, what's up?
Hey, glad to be here, Jaron. Thank you for inviting me. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no, you were saying you've got some show coming up after this one, right? Maybe you wanted to kind of shout that out?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So this is the start of a mega marathon for me tonight, so I'll be assisting you tonight on this show, and then I've got a couple of presentations that are happening on my show. So I've got, funnily enough, I've got a globe earther coming in to try and debunk the black swan image. That should be interesting. Bob the Science Guy doing a presentation at 11 p.m. London time. And then after that, I've actually got Rude Earther. Now, Rude Earther is a flat earther, and he's dismantled his gyroscope, and he's taken out the GPS on it, and he'll be doing a live presentation throughout the show showing you if there's any drift. So that'll be on the second show. So 2 shows, 11 p.m., probably 1 p.m., something like that this evening. Sorry, 1 a.m. after this.
Awesome. Okay. And that's on the Ranty Flat Earth channel, so everybody can check that out after this show. That's a good thing about, I don't know, the way things have been going lately. It seems like there's shows on all the time. So there's no way you can tune in to YouTube and not find something to watch. Everybody's doing something at some time. And then again, if you don't catch something live, the good thing is that those channels usually have their videos stay there so you can watch them later. Let me tell you a story about last night. Last night I was driving in my car, just enjoying a good drive, and I currently don't have any data on my cell phone because my son uses it all. It's another story completely, but every once in a while at the end of the month, I don't get any data. So I had to listen to the radio, which is fine. Enjoying a good drive. I like to drive, listen to the radio. And on came this ad. Now imagine how I almost threw up in my car. This is a radio commercial that was actually on the radio. And let's just listen to this commercial. And imagine you're just driving, having a good night, looking around, enjoying the scenery, and this commercial comes on.
Mommy, sing me to sleep. Sure, sweetie. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. You're a ball of gas that's very far. 32 light years in the sky, 10 parsecs, which is really high. Helium, carbon, and hydrogen fuse to make our starry friend. When it enters supernova stage, it explodes with bursts of rays. And if the star's mass is big and bold, it will become a big black hole. And if the star's mass is big and bold, it will become a big black hole. Thanks, Mom.
By the 6th grade, many girls lose interest in math and science, so it's up to parents to help create a...
I almost threw up.
Oh, my goodness. And still, it gives you this trying to...
Lies.
It's basically patronizing parents at the end, Jaron.
Yeah. Saying,
"Oh, do this because
little
kids don't know math enough."
Oh, and the little girl's voice was
just,
hydrogen. I was just so.
Oh my goodness! That was a torture, man.
It was torture.
And the black hole that was.
Yeah. Oh,
really
then it becomes a big black. Oh boy, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to rewrite the words to the song. I might do that because that was some crap.
I really like to know the Jesuit behind that song.
It's the Girl Scouts. This is a Girl Scout commercial. By the way, I didn't let the finish off, but
it's so sketchy, man.
So I figured since I almost threw up in my mouth that I wanted to make sure you guys did as well. Oh, that was no fun.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, Jaron. Yeah, that was. It made my spine cool.
Oh, boy.
And I understand. I understand what you.
Yeah.
If I was alone in the middle of nowhere and I heard this,
I almost steered the car into a bridge embankment.
Black hole.
It's actually creepy, isn't it? I mean, when you listen to it, it sounds like something.
Oh, it's very creepy.
Like a horror movie.
And I don't even think the little girl's voice is like. I don't know. The whole thing was just crap.
God, they insist on the melody, insist on the same melody, just shifting the words nonstop. It's a hypnotistic kind of approach, and they are basically telling the parents to do the same and make these get these factoids that if they're BS science is not. I would understand even if it's something about is it about engineering and microchips or something very nerdy, make a song about it and whatever, talk about how they work, things that actually work. But here is about outer space and black holes and all this theoretical BS.
Theoretical BS, right. Things that nobody will ever experience. You're telling this little girl, oh, when the star's mass is big and bright, it will become a big black hole. I mean, come on. It's just nonsense. And, isn't it even contentious in the space community whether black holes even exist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's beyond contentious.
Even in their own community.
Oh,
yes.
It's like ridiculous.
It's invented, right? It's an invention.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it was Einstein or was it, maybe it was even Stephen Hawking that came along that eventually said that they did exist, right? Or that they would exist, of course, mathematically.
Yeah, I think those biopics, I think he has more than one even.
Dude, the funniest part to me was it's like the little kid's song. It's supposed to be real simple, and she was having to fit all these like nonsense words that were way too long in it.
10 parsecs and really in the sky. Yeah, oh boy,
that's crazy. It's black holes are only inferred to exist because of the fact they observe these so-called gravitational anomalies that are drawing these objects into funny orbital patterns or out of what they would normally expect for their trajectories. But the really crazy thing about the black holes is not only do they assume that they're there, but they also assume that objects are actually curving around them. They've never actually witnessed any objects doing that. They just see these objects moving. They're saying, well, okay, I guess that's going to curve. Therefore, there must be a black hole there. And that is the honest to God truth. It's unbelievable.
So you mean the gravitational holes or lensing holes?
Well, supposedly these objects that are supposedly like orbiting around the black holes, they're not even observing any curvature, any arc to their trajectory. They're just saying, well, it's going to have to happen, so we're going to assume that it is because, all this happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
It's just unreal.
Mathematics can do some incredible things, I guess. Yeah.
It's funny how that works together with the whole idea of the fixed stars, which has been the paradigm forever till Copernicus came along, and they were claiming that, they found at some point they find Neptune, and it's all done with strings and sketchy observation. But, and some of them think it's a comet at first, if it moves, and that's moving at will. There's all kinds of strange observations I was reading today about the 17th century and the paradigm shift when Copernicus comes along and this kind of Western story starts here. And of course, how the Chinese had observed stars that disappeared. For instance, they had catalog stars that were not there anymore. And who knows what they were using. I mean, we talk about telescopes the other time, how telescopes are actually quite weak. It's a really, people think it's amazing, like you see so far, but it doesn't, which is quite another trick. And it doesn't even use lenses the way it could use to really amplify stuff, which Iro showed as well on the different designs of telescopes. So this whole story, keeping people away from technology. And now that people got a hold of technology, they have a big problem.
But, I want to get back to the child's songs.
Yes.
Because because I have here, I downloaded and I changed a little bit the rate of the sound and the style of the voice. Because even in my first live show that I made in my English channel, I talk about, this kind of brainwashing that the heliocentric model made, not just for adult people, but also for the young. And there is this song from the show called Gumball, and it's funny, the name Gumball in the show. And one of the main character, asks for the meaning of life. And I have here in English, and for me, it's terrible.
You want to even trying to share
the guy from the refrigerator that comes out of the fridge?
No, that scene. But I am not going to play to show the image, because the image is you're gonna have a copyright strike. Not strike, but you're gonna have a copyright
claim,
because I tested that, but not with the sound. The sound it's okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just play the first 40 seconds. And show the people how this did. For me, it's insane. The amount of maldad is badness. I don't know how to evil, because you cannot put this kind of song in. This is the Cartoon Network show. Or TV show. These are the main characters, and one of those. I'm going to delete the image, and I put some.
Are you screen sharing?
Filter to.
Okay, let me pick it up.
Yes, supposedly I'm screen sharing right now.
Okay, I didn't know. Gotcha. Now you're up.
Okay,
there.
okay. So let me know if it's okay, the sound.
Yeah. Why isn't anyone able to answer our question? Tell me, universe, what is the meaning of life?
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. What is the meaning of life?
Right.
So now the show is going to
sing a song.
Yeah, sing a song, because the universe is going to answer that. Okay. So they go to the space and show all the planet, and came. The sun, the sun came to talk with the other planet and said what you're going to hear about it, because I don't want to show that image, but...
You guys, quick, I think someone's in need of a cosmic answer.
Let's explain the meaning of his pitiful existence to him in the form of a feel-good song.
So that is how it starts.
Oh boy, yeah, let's explain his pitiful existence.
Yeah, this is the lyrics, the lyrics start with that. Let us explain that. That word I can't even pronounce it.
1, 2, 3. When you think you've got a problem and your life is full of doubt, remember in the scheme of things your life just doesn't count. To you a leaf may seem quite small, but to an ant it's 10 feet tall. It's hard to be objective, so we'll offer some perspective.
You think there's nothing greater than the planet you call Earth, but Earth can seem quite skinny next to Neptune's mighty girth.
Relax, cause when you think you've got a problem and you're thinner or you're fatter, remember in the scheme of things your life just doesn't matter.
Wow.
I put pause there, just for stop the song.
Good.
Your life just doesn't matter.
No.
I mean,
it's criminal.
This is criminal, man. This TV show is seen by millions of childs from the age of maybe 2 years old.
The dinosaurs, the aliens.
You might think that there's nothing as good as the Earth, but everything's better than the Earth. It's like
everything
Rodrigo was talking about yesterday. We were talking about. I mean, they love to say anybody who mentions the sun in the scientific community, they have to say it's just an average star. It's just substandard, average star. There's much bigger, there's much better out there. It's nothing special.
Exactly. So let me just finish.
Well, look at that. You're tiny.
They feel small because he's the biggest of us all, but that's just in the solar system. Bigger things than that exist.
The Milky Way galaxy. Don't forget the universe. That's just the ones we know about. They're huge compared to you or us. You're tiny and you're minuscule, irrelevant, a speck. On the dark side of that rock, you're just a measly little flip. Your life may last a century on Earth or maybe quicker, but up here 100 years is just a flash, a flip, a flicker. So when you think you've got a problem, when your life is full of doubt, remember in the scheme of things, your puny little tiny weeny meager futile worthless teeny boring foolish pointless miserable wretched gloomy bleak and brittle life just does not count.
What? Cuts to Darwin, looking at the sun.
So that is the meaning of life. If you ask to the universe at the age of 3-4 years old.
Look at the end. Look at the end. That Gumball says at the end, the joke's on Dan. Blah blah blah. The sun will have collapsed under its own mass.
Yes, because after that, supposedly the character, when they look into the sky, they don't see the sun in real time. They just see like this kind of thing, Well.
My goodness, this is just abusive to the extreme.
Terrible. But that's what they're teaching children. That's what's important. That's that they're not important.
Exactly.
Parents need to watch what they give their children.
No, it's criminal. It's criminal. It's criminal. And for the solar system, 500 million of years is just like a second. So the sun said, hey, remember that boy that asked for the meaning of life, and he said that the sun is going to disappear. Well, now it's come that time, and it's bloom and explode. It's just trying to put the concept of the time dilation and things like that into the. So after you receive it, after receiving all the bullshit from the song, you're also going to receive the Einsteinian concept of the universe. So it's terrible. It's criminal, man. I mean.
And we wouldn't know, of course, that the light went out for 8 minutes. Of course,
exactly.
Knows that.
Of course, man.
Of course.
That. No, but when you start, trying to study this from the psychological way, it's something criminal, man. Who invented this kind of song for a child?
Well, yeah,
you have to sing it.
You need
it. Terrible.
If you're trying to tell children that they're worthless, you should be telling your children that the most important thing in your life.
Right.
But yet, on the other hand, they're telling them that they're worthless, pointless, useless. Well, what are they going to do to their children when they grow up? How are they going to treat their children? Are they going to look after them and love them?
Right. Exactly.
Is it just like a programming thing to try and desensitize children?
What kind of person does that bring about? What kind of person does that employ? Not a good person.
That's
not somebody who cares about others.
That's what I'm trying to say, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
not somebody
who's supposed to be a joke, because it's supposed to be a joke. But what the heck, like a parent looking at those words, what it's saying. It's all these adjectives that mean you're worthless, you're stupid, you're small, you're and in putting this kind of system of understanding yourself through declarations, like proclamations like that, that's supposed to be scientific, it's very scary. And in the, when you think about it in the long term, because that's just in the beginning, and that just gets reinforced and reinforced. And that's why you have people that get so roused up to come after.
Yep, indeed. Good one, Iru. It's the same as who's the alien? Paxi. Paxi will tell you the same thing, right?
Believe me.
Yeah, but Patsy, I believe Patsy is more celestial. Is more nice. This is directly to your head. It's a headshot directly.
Yeah, and Paxi has that blue beam going off his ship.
Oh, what better way to teach children about space that doesn't exist than to use beings that don't exist? It's pretty smart.
That tell them they're worthless.
Right.
Yeah. But that's why I believe your song, your advertising in the radio is naive in comparison with this kind of psychological warfare.
Oh, it's just you expect certain
Voltage
commercials,
badge.
but then and then you hear that, and it's just like, I was just like, what? I don't know if I'll ever be able to find that again, or did I just hear that? Then I came home and searched Girl Scout Twinkle Twinkle, and of course there's a YouTube video for it, as there is for everything. So.
Well, there's both things are very pernicious. On the one hand, the one thing you get, you leave your child by themselves and they're watching TV, they get this song that Eater showed, and they get sucked into it. And on the other example, which was, what were we talking about? How did I forget?
The Iru's video?
Space crack, Rodrigo. Space crack.
I'm on space crack. I'm just being
just say no, man.
Completely derailed.
That's all right. Oh boy. So
no. The other example, of course, Jaren's radio example.
Right.
In that case, I think that's even more pernicious in a way, because it is coaxing parents. It is coming with the voice of science through this repetitive lullaby, and actually instructing parents to do the same and to push so that science gets inscribed into the little ones. And the parent that's going inside the house, and the parent that takes that advice, it's basically acting for them.
Well, and they say many girls lose interest in science or this and that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, because what they're talking about is the stars in the sky. And nobody loses interest in those other than the people that have been taught that they're trillions of miles away and they're unimportant and that our sun's just some average star. I mean, that's the crime in it.
And what is bizarre is that that's not even interesting in terms of what science is out there. If it's biology, children want to learn about animals. There's so much to learn about animal behavior. They could be talking about that, but they're pushing the heliocentric model.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. Or getting into technology, or making lives better for other people in the world. And there's so many things you could have gone in the direction rather than 23 million billion light years in the sky. It's just so stupid. It's painful. I did see this video today on Twitter that I just thought was funny. I just have to show it just because it's funny. This is Trump leaving the White House with Hillary and Mayor Bloomberg. Oh boy! I needed a good laugh. Every once in a while, I need a good laugh. So I did see something else interesting, and I don't know what you guys know about this show or anything like that, but I guess it's coming out in a couple days. There's a show called Wife Swap. You ever heard of it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I don't watch a lot of.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I guess in a episode coming up within a couple weeks, I don't know if it's next week or whatever. There's going to be a teacher who swaps with a flat earther mom. And, my question is, and I can't make comments until I see it, because it would be interesting if the show really goes to a flat earth family. It'll be a very interesting show. However, like all TV, which I think is mostly set up, even reality shows, we might get flat earther parents that say, oh, well, the earth is, accelerating upwards at, 9.8 meters per second squared. Are they going to try and just trash flat earth? They do have a clip in here. I don't know how much of this I could show without getting copyright, But this is the teacher, I guess. I just watched this little clip. This is the teacher mom, and she's talking to the flat earther dad. The only thing interesting that I found that is really interesting is this guy says that his father or his grandfather was an aerospace engineer who helped build Apollo 13. But he is a flat earther and says that even his father wouldn't have known, or his grandfather wouldn't have known that the whole thing is fake. And she asks him, so you don't think anybody went to the moon? He's like, no. So, I mean, at least for this little highlight, it looks like it could actually be, we can see a little piece of it. I'll kind of stop it every once in a while.
I read in the manual that you guys said that you believe that the Earth is flat.
I don't understand how there can be a molten lava core. You're looking at a 4 to 4,000 something miles. I don't know anybody that's been that deep.
So, I mean, so far, just in that little part, I'm like, all right, seems like it's a flat earther. He knows what he's talking about.
Seen any proof of it.
Seriously?
I mean, the guy that came up with a round ball Earth shooting through the universe at, you know, millions of miles an hour. I don't know all the math. I'm just saying, just ridiculous speeds. I mean, they didn't have radar guns back then.
Wow, that's insane.
Oh, he looks like an actor, man. He looks like an actor. I'm sorry. I'm not buying that.
I would agree.
I'm not buying that.
Yeah, and I would have to see the
The
whole
ray
episode.
guns, what's that all about?
No, the guy doesn't even know he doesn't know much. He's you know, even his facial expressions are like he's making it up when he's talking. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, and with anything with TV, and with anything with TV, I'm in the same boat. That's why I said I'd have to see the episode until I see.
It's a setup then.
Right, and one of the things that this article ends with is saying, speaking to the cameras at last, Felicia expresses her fear that the family is actually teaching, excuse me, that the family is actually teaching their children conspiracy theories rather than trusted facts. The strong-willed teacher believes that the children are being set up for failure with such controversial views. Viewers will have to tune in to see if the Dutchers come around on their misguided beliefs in the shocking conclusion. So, is the ending of the show going to be that they say, you know what, you're right, we need to teach science, we can't teach our children anymore about flat Earth, they're going to be outcasts, that's the question. So, you know, they did a good job of setting up the show, because I certainly don't watch TV, but I'll try and find this episode just so I can, because you can tell right away if somebody's a real flat earther or if they're making it up. Again, it's just like the lies we covered right in last week's Globebusters, Bob. It's kind of the same thing. We know that that wasn't a real conversation with his real mom. You could tell right away that that was just a setup piece. Will this be the same? The only reason that I kind of said maybe is because of this part here coming up.
It's easier for me to understand that the Earth is flat than it would be what mainstream science says it is. While it's
so no man on the moon.
Oh no. I don't.
You're
I don't,
killing me here.
Yeah, it kills me to think that they want us to believe that.
That is insane.
My grandfather was an aerospace engineer. He helped build Apollo 13. And I don't think he had any idea. You know, I don't think he was in on the secret either.
I completely think that it is.
So anyway, it'd be interesting. I just saw that article today, and it doesn't really say when the episode will be, at least from what I can tell.
You can bet, Jaron, that ultimately they're going to make him look like a complete hick, country bumpkin. There's just no way that they're not going to do this. And they're never, even if he had any coherent, really, really good points to put out, they're going to edit it out. It's just, that's the way it's going to be, guaranteed.
Pretty much guaranteed, huh? But I'll definitely check it out because I would like to see if that's the way they go, because it'll be just another great point to point out that these guys always have to slam, make fun of. We talked about it, last week, that's their goal, that's their intent. So
this is a cable show?
I don't know. It says it's on some channel I've never heard of, but my wife says she's seen it before. For season 2 on the Paramount Network. I didn't even know such a network existed. So I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Usually stuff like this you can find on YouTube. But again, what's going to come out, I mean, of course, you have a teacher, you have a flat earth family, and it's going to come out at the end, like it says, there's going to be a shocking conclusion, right? Viewers will have to tune in to see if they come around on their misguided beliefs in the shocking. They're already called them misguided beliefs. I mean, so what's going to happen?
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah.
Can I make a prediction? I'll make a prediction. I make a prediction that by the end of the show, he's no longer a flat earther and he's now a globe earther.
Right. Now, won't that be hilarious if that's the That would be hilarious.
That'd
to
be
me.
funny.
That would be funny. I mean, because it's so obvious to anybody other than the mainstream people watching. But to us, it'll be obvious, and it will be easy to point out and say, "Look at how big a nonsense this is." That just this scientist mother comes in for 2 weeks and talks about how great stem cell. She'll probably sing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." You're 23 parsecs in the sky. She'll probably sing that to the children so that they fall asleep, and everything will be good. And then all of a sudden, the children will be so much smarter, and the parents will realize the error of their ways and turn into Neil deGrasse Tyson followers, and Bill Nye will be their hero. Yeah, I totally agree with your with your prediction. I think it'll be interesting to see. So, anyway,
the shocking conclusion is some scientist comes and lets him know what's really going on, and then they figure it out. Because this dude didn't even mention any of the metrics. It's just all flat earthers know at least some of the numbers, So
right. So it'll be interesting to see. So that's just something. I don't know when that's coming up, but people can. The article just came out yesterday, so it says, I think it says episode 2 of the season or something. I don't know. I'll be looking for it, and we'll probably do a video on it, just laughing at the shocking conclusion, which I'm sure will be quite shocking. The other thing, I'm seeing Flat Earth in the news a lot. This is an article just came out last week, February 15th. Everybody knows that Carl Frosch, thinks that the world's flat, right? Have you guys also heard that Tyson Fury thinks that? I don't know if you've heard that, but Tyson Fury's got a boxing match coming up. I think so. I mean, if you search it, you can usually...
Was it not Mike Tyson?
No.
I know Mike Tyson does.
Yeah, he
Mike
does.
Tyson said it as well.
Let me see. Let me just search it and see if I'm right here. Carl Frosch believes the Earth is a... Yeah, boxing champ Tyson Fury reveals flat Earth truth. So I think that he is also somebody who has mentioned it before, but not sure. But anyway, he's just showing up in articles, which I like to see. I don't care when I see these articles. I'm like, yes, have more people come out and say this. Says, sure, boxers are known for making outlandish statements, but even by those standards, this is spicy hot take. The former world super middleweight champion claims he does not believe that the world is a globe and won't believe it until someone like Richard Branson launches a mission into space to prove that it's round. He says, speaking of which, he also accused NASA of releasing pictures of space that are like cartoons, which I can't disagree with that. He says the Earth is flat 100%. There's no proof of the Earth's curvature, and this fake space agency NASA uses CGI images, everyone being different. I'm looking at them thinking, hey, on a minute, they're all cartoons. So anyway, I just saw that article too. I get all these little alerts whenever Flat Earth shows up in the news. And so we'll have to wait and see if anything comes from that. I don't know. We covered that one. It
would be really cool tomorrow if when Tyson Fury beats Wilder, he then, as he's doing his interview, says the Earth is flat.
I agree.
The Earth is flat.
Is that his fight tomorrow? I didn't know when that was.
Yeah, his fight's tomorrow. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. So I guess we're all rooting for Tyson Fury. That's a pretty easy pick for me.
Oh yes.
This one here I thought was very interesting, and this just goes back to what we've talked about on previous episodes. Hilarious. So the Con Air director Simon West, who I guess is the guy that corrected the movie Con Air, is to helm an Amazon drama about an epic Spanish flat Earth voyage. So I'm thinking, what is this about? So it says Simon West, the director of Con Air and Lara Croft Tomb Raider, is to helm an Amazon miniseries about two 16th century explorers who set out to disprove the theory that the world is flat. So I thought that we've known for 2,300 years. Why all of a sudden is it, this guy's doing a movie about 16th century explorers setting out to disprove the world is flat? Of course, they're talking about Ferdinand Magellan and Juan Sebastian Elcano. But it's just funny.
5 years to go around, or 3 years, however it was.
I just think it's hilarious that they keep mixing this up. I mean, I thought that even Columbus knew the Earth was round, but now 16th century, which would be 1500, are setting out to prove that the world is round. And of course,
they can't get their lies straight.
No, they can't get their lies straight. And of course, the comments, I was like, oh, here comes. People are going to be, hey, you don't know anything. And of course, that's what happens. People come here and say, any historian will tell you that no one in the 16th century thought the Earth was flat. In 200 BC, after all, Aristophanes calculated the circumference of the Earth. It was generally accepted knowledge in the 16th century. Columbus knew the Earth was round, but made a miscalculation as to the circumference. By 4,000 miles? No, he didn't. It's a lot more than 4,000 miles. Why else would he have sailed west to get to the east?
Well, they must have failed. That's all I can say, because Dearth Shout out to Dirth. What was it, 102-year-old lady, and they were still teaching flat Earth back in the 1920s.
Yeah,
so hey, they must have failed in the 16th century if they tried to prove the Earth was a globe back then.
Yeah, says, yes, Magellan's voyage had nothing to do with proving anything. The goal was to find a better, faster way to the Spice Islands. So people will get very upset, but I just think it's funny that this movie that's coming out is going to be talking about them proving.
All about that. Yeah, like they're really curious about that when they're actually trying to make money, which makes more sense in their world at the time.
So that article was from yesterday, and that'll be a movie. If it's on Amazon, I have Amazon Prime, so hey, I'll watch a little mini series about these guys and see what's going on with that. So,
but you know what? Like in school in Brazil, growing up, they taught us that the main drive for these navigations west was the Turkish taking over Constantinople, or I mean, not taking over the place, but Constantinople being taken over and blocked the route to the east. And then, that's the mainstream story that we heard, and that's what propels them west, because these routes, Marco Polo had been using caravans that go all the way from the west of Africa to India, have been going on for as long as people remember. The whole area there through Afghanistan, and trade routes that very ancient.
Yeah, somebody also just talking about a different subject, but you brought up Copernicus earlier, and I wanted to get Iru's opinion on this. Iru, when you've looked into Copernicus's book and done some research on it, what do you think about the foreword that they say was written by Osiander? Do you believe that, or do you think that that's Copernicus's words? Of course, we know it's the whole quote that I'm talking about is in the foreword, and it's talking about. The philosopher will perhaps seek the semblance of the truth, but neither of them will understand or state anything certain unless it has been divinely revealed to him. Let no one expect anything certain from astronomy, which cannot furnish it, lest he accept as truth ideas conceived for another purpose and depart to study a greater fool than when he entered. Of course, I've always thought that the story about Osiander being some step-in scribe or something that changed, because the whole story is he wrote the foreword and then forwarded the book on without Copernicus ever knowing. It's just ridiculous. And they use as their example the fact that he says the present author. And they say, oh, well, but yet in Copernicus's book, he never says I. He constantly will kind of call it the same thing. The present author, this author, talking about himself. But I don't believe the whole story. I don't believe the Copernicus, writing a book on his deathbed. I mean, that's some storyline bullshit. What say you, or is he gone?
Where's Iru?
Oh, Iru. Great. Good timing here. Anybody else have any comments on that? Anybody done any looking into that whole quote that's at the beginning of the book? I don't know. Guess not.
I haven't looked into that. I looked into the works of Newton and stuff, what he has written, and how he concocted the vacuum of space and some other things, but also how he was looking for God. And how he proclaimed that God was in all the motions of the universe, for instance. So it's kind of before it became a materialist thing, which it seems to be the Jesuits just playing both sides of the coin, having the trap for materialists and being themselves quite, rotten to the core. As far as
it just seems nonsense to me. There's supposedly this guy Rheticus. Rheticus was supposed to be the publisher of Copernicus's book, and supposedly he got the book, read it, said, okay, this is fine, it can go to print, and then he handed it off to this guy, Andreas Osiander, German Lutheran theologian and Protestant reformer, says, who had taken over the task of supervising and printing the publication, which is just nonsense. Like any publisher would say, here, to some guy who's not done this, who's not a publisher, let me give you this book and put you in charge of it while I take off. So he does that.
Well, I mean, I guess the idea is that this guy won't a publishing house where you do the typesetting for the book, finalize the book, and actually print it and get it out. Maybe it would have been a shop or something like this.
Right.
I'm guessing.
But then
That's the story.
But he handed it off to this guy, Andreas, right, who supposedly then wrote a foreword to the book, inserted it into the book, and then put it out for publication. So it says,
and pretending to be Copernicus?
Well, it says, in an effort to reduce the controversial impact of the book, Osiander added his own unsigned letter called To the Reader Concerning the
Signed.
Hypothesis of This Work. But it's unsigned, so you can believe
How
that
do
if
they
you
know
want.
who did
They
it?
don't know that. In fact, I think it's Copernicus' own words. I think Copernicus put that at the beginning of his book, and what he was saying is, to the reader concerning the hypothesis of this work, talking about his own book. And I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, but it says if it was him, he would have wrote to the reader concerning the hypothesis of my work. But
That would be very easy to state. What language was it originally written? Was it Latin or was it Italian?
I think it's Latin.
I forget. Huh?
Pretty sure it's Latin. You can see this
If it is Latin, I can take a look. In Quibus Stellatum,
yeah, it's Latin.
I can see it.
But
so if I get the text, it is actually you could by comparing the style of the introduction to the rest of the book.
Oh, good. Okay.
You could probably establish if it is Copernicus, because nobody writes like anybody else if you're writing without copying anyone, without plagiarizing.
Right.
So it would be you get many books that you have a preface by a different author, you can totally tell the difference of the style and why even that the person doing the introduction has written the way they did it, because they have their own kind of take on things. So in this case, if it is where you suspect, an analysis of the text could establish that, actually, I think. And you said that you picked up on one thing, that it's exactly the same, particular way he addresses the audience, right? Or himself.
I've heard people say, well, it says the hypothesis of this work. It doesn't say of my work. But if you read the rest of Copernicus' book, he never really says me or I believe or anything like that. He'll just say, I think he uses the same words. The author.
It's more formal language that he was using, probably.
Right, and I don't even. I'm somebody who isn't even sure that this person existed. So I think a lot of these books are just nonsense.
It's that problem as well.
Right, and he says, it was printed in the front of Copernicus's preface, which was a dedicatory letter to Pope Paul II, and which kept the title to acknowledge that the undersigned author was not the book's author, even though we don't know that. But it says, Osiander's letter stated that Copernicus' system was mathematics intended to aid computation and not an attempt to declare literal truth. So, the quote that I've often brought up before, many people will bring it up, but this is supposedly Osiander, or you can believe it's Copernicus. He says, it is the duty of the astronomer to compose the history of celestial motions through careful and expert study. Then he must conceive and devise the causes of these motions or hypotheses about them. Since he cannot in any way attain to the true causes, he will adopt whatever suppositions enable the motions to be computed correctly. The present author has performed both these duties excellently, for these hypotheses need not be true or even probable. Sorry, that's funny right there. For these hypotheses do not need to be true or even probable. On the contrary, if they provide a calculus consistent with the observations, that alone is enough. For this art, which I think is interesting, it is quite clear, is completely and absolutely ignorant of the causes and the apparent movement of the heavens. And if any causes are devised by the imagination, as indeed very many are, they are not put forward to convince anyone that they are true, but merely to provide a reliable basis for computation. The funny thing is this leaves out a good subject that in this preface, if anybody's ever read it, I'd have to find the English version to show it. This is not all of it. But he actually says that there's certain things that don't match observations, like the size of Venus. Anybody remember that passage? Bob, you remember that at all? I don't know if anybody.
No, actually I don't.
But the thing is, Jaron, here, if this is a preface written by a typesetter, it doesn't make any sense. Just to do the kind of language he understands what astronomy is supposed to be doing and how they're doing it, what they're trying to do, their attention, what the work is doing. So it seems like it is at least somebody versed in what's going on. So much more likely it's not just a typesetter who's just doing a manual labor and setting up the thing for the press, and who got thought, this is too revolutionary, let me do some damage control. Doesn't sound like it.
So this is the actual, I don't know how great this, I just typed this in just so I could find it, but so they took out part of the letter from Osiander because he's talking about some problems. He says, for these hypotheses need not be true or probable, and see, they just completely left this part out. On the contrary, if they provide a calculus consistent, that alone is enough. Perhaps, let me see why they left this out. I just want to check something real quick. So if they provide a calculus consistent with observations, that alone is enough. Did they go ... from there? Where was that at? If they provide a reliable calculus for basis, however, wait. Sorry, I'm just trying to see where this ends. For that alone is enough. Okay, so at least they put in the ... because what they're saying is they've left out part of the words, because it goes on to say, perhaps there was someone so ignorant of geometry and optics that he regards the epicycle of Venus as probable, or thinks that there is a reason why Venus sometimes precedes and sometimes follows the sun by 40 degrees or more, which is things that John the Morgiles talked about. Is there anyone who is not aware that from this assumption it is necessarily follows that the diameter of the planet at Perigee should appear to be more than 4 times, and the body of the planet more than 16 times as great as the apogee? So what it's saying is that based on the mathematics of the epicycle of Venus, that we should see when Venus is close to the Earth that the planet should be 16 times as
bigger.
Great in size.
Exactly.
Right. As
exactly.
it is when it's away.
And that only would make sense if it was, much closer, right? Well, not much closer, but much further away.
Yeah. So it's just funny because, this goes against observation, yet it's part of their current model. So it's so funny that they left it out of here. They just go ... for they don't want to put this in there because this is
a whole bunch of problems there.
Yeah. By the way, Jaron, Wendell Walton in chat said that the wife swap episode aired last night. He found it on demand AT&T now. He fast forwarded to the end during the debrief. No shocker. Snub at very end with text update saying FER is questioning gravity.
Wait, he said I didn't catch that. Oh, so that did air? Okay, well, guess I'll try.
Yeah, last night.
So he did not turn a glober at the end.
Nope. He's questioning gravity supposedly, and that's a whole nother issue that I think really needs to be straightened out. Is the misconceptions about gravity and the way that it's misused. And I think that's a lot of the reason why Austin and I are, kind of going down this road. It's just because it is so the way that the gravity has been represented and misrepresented to be able to sling things around it, and the way that it does, it just simply can't. But, unfortunately, as a result, we're going to get people just deny it outright, and we're going to get very, very ridiculed because of that. And to me, it's a problem. But
I was reading something today. I thought you find it interesting on the history of paradigm shifts, especially in relation to gravity, because they couldn't. And this is like back in the 17th century, and when the new paradigms are coming up in Franklin and whatnot, and they were looking at electrical devices and trying to find out what was going on, and then they found out that they had some repulsive force that they call repulsive force. Later it became that there's different shifts in perception. So there's the kind of history of science, and you have people seeing things differently according to how they interpret the phenomenon. But then that was kind of a big kind of monkey wrench like problem, because suddenly you have a force that repels, and you have to account for it. And it's very visible and it's very clear. And then they start following that. But again, it's funny that gravity comes right before electricity, and that doesn't really shift that paradigm. That still stays for some reason and intact as mass attracting mass, and not updated to be an electromagnetic phenomenon, as you've been going much deeper into.
Right. Well, and not only that, even the predicted field strength, there is no actual field strength of gravity itself. All they can do is describe, the acceleration characteristics behind it. But so where they're coming up with this figure, I don't know, but I would tend to agree with it. But they say that in comparison to electrostatic, force, gravity is 10 to the negative 38th or 10 to the 38th order weaker, right? So how in the world, could it possibly hold planets, stars, ISS, moons? It's absurd, and that, that's one of the biggest problems. And I think that's really what we need to go down that road and debunk that part of it, rather than saying that it simply doesn't exist, Right. So that's my take on it anyway. And I
agree 100%, bro, because like if we can provide a better explanation, then they can't even use it as their little deified force anymore,
Exactly. we tear it apart on its weaknesses, and that's a big one, in my opinion. Go ahead, Jaron. Sorry.
I just wanted to finish this off by saying I was wrong. That as I read further down, at least in the English, he does say over and over again, I. So I was wrong to say that he doesn't. I can find it many times.
Okay. So there's at least in the English, there's a difference in the address, the way the work is being referred to by the author of the first letter in the introduction.
Yeah, the more I go, I do see him say I many times. So I was wrong about that. But whether or not that original piece was written by him or not, I'm not sure. That's I'll put that in the show notes. But go ahead. Let's go back to what you guys were talking about. I just wanted to clear that up so I didn't say that incorrectly. Clearly, he doesn't say I here. Whether that was written by OCN or somebody, nobody signed it. It's just signed XX. And really, like I said, that they just took out the part where he's going through different problems with this science, and even says that, like we said, that this, Venus should be 16 times as big. He says, yet this variation is refuted by the experience of every age. In this science, there are some other no less important absurdities. So he's saying that there's absurdities in this science, which need not be set forth at this moment. For this art, it's quite clear, it's completely and absolutely ignorant of the causes and the apparent non-uniform motions, and then basically says that so far as hypotheses are concerned, let no one expect anything certain from astronomy, which cannot furnish it, lest he accept the truth of ideas conceived for another purpose. Well, now people believe it as the truth, whereas this author was saying, don't do that. Whatever you do, don't take what's being said in this book as literal truth. That's not what it's for. It's for the mathematical computation. And again, the only problem I see sometimes, like, we're not problem. I mean, I kind of agree with it, but a lot of people will have this quote being from Copernicus, which technically is from Osiander.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll move on from that subject. So I mean, when it
on the just on a question for Bob, and like on the question on gravity again, just to expand on it, like the gravimetry or gravimetry or whatever, the study of the measure of it, aren't there variations and anomalies, and shouldn't there be none? Because at mass attracting mass and this center core, shouldn't it be all basically homogeneous around the ball?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, even in the Newtonian model, it's hard to say, because even if it was a ball Earth, which we know it isn't, but there could be different densities, different materials that would have these different dielectric accelerations within them. So theoretically, that could make it, make different acceleration values, right? But the fact is, there are different acceleration values, but what exactly is causing them? We don't really know. We just know that they do exist.
Yeah. So it's not a constant.
No, it's general. 9.8 meters per second squared is a generalization that works pretty good. But honestly, how much can you really test that if you think about it? Exactly. Because we've got atmosphere, you've got, aerodynamic variables and stuff like that. So to me, it's a huge generalization.
Right. What about the different kinds of materials falling at different rates and stuff?
Well, that's something we're still, we've got all of our stuff for our tests made and ready to go. But, it's been snowing like a big dog for the last month in Denver, and we haven't had a chance to go out and actually do these tests yet. So we're just kind of, sitting around tapping our toes, waiting for the weather to, cooperate.
Well, I think that's the point, though. You'll never really be able to remove all the variables.
Exactly. It makes it difficult. So all we can do is approximate it.
And how long can you drop something for, right? For how far, and that's another problem.
And the other issue, I mean, my whole problem is when I understand the frustration when flat earthers say gravity doesn't exist. But at the same time, I'll be somebody who says that, because I think weight exists. And that's what gravity means, is weight. And I believe items have mass, and mass, things have weight.
That's what the word means in the Latin.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So I think that, that's the problem, is that, if you just that's going to come off as very ignorant, and I see that. If I go on a TV show, which I haven't, and if I did and said, oh, I don't believe gravity exists, immediately people will throw their arms up and be like, "Oh, this person's
Drop a mic."
ridiculous." Right. I'm going to say gravity doesn't exist and throw the mic upward. No. I can understand where that's frustrating, but I also understand where people are saying gravity doesn't exist, because gravity as taught, I don't think exists at all. As far as things pulling spheres together and making planets and making gas giants and making everything in the sky.
What you could do is have like a prop, which is a microphone, but made of something very light, and you put helium inside, a helium balloon inside, and you hold it, and then you say gravity doesn't exist, and you let go, and it just hovers.
That's great.
We gotta floating. Yeah, that's a nice idea.
That's a great idea. Iru, can we make? We gotta make a.
We can make it. We can make it. No, but for me, it's a really, I am the guy that thinks, as you think, Shannon. I mean, for example, it's like with the Coriolis effect. When the people trying to say, okay, for you flat earthers, Coriolis effects, it's not exist. No, yes, exists the Coriolis effect, but not applied to the planet or to the Earth. Right. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's not
in a swing or in a rotating.
Exactly, in a rotating surface. Obviously exists. And with gravity, it's a mystery, man. I mean, the whole science trying to came up with something to explain the gravity, like supposedly they think it is. But when you're trying to, for me, doesn't make any sense. First of all, there is not a force, because you cannot detect that supposedly force. It's like a condition. It's like a property of object that has mass and, weight. But it's not a force.
Right. Well, Iro, and I get exactly what you're saying too. There is no measurable so-called field strength to a gravity, right? Like if you transmit an RF wave, radio, EM wave, you can measure that. Magnetic fields, you can measure in microteslas. Everything else we can actually measure this field, but the only thing that is ever attributed to gravity is a characteristic, a description saying, well, it causes things to fall at 9.8 meters per second squared. So I agree with you in that particular aspect, but to deny that for whatever reason these things are, accelerating.
No, I didn't deny that.
No, I know. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying, but a lot of people are, and that really is not a good look for us. So that's why I think we should really be doing this and trying to explain it.
One thing, Bob,
and
like
making observations.
When you have a strong magnet attracting something, right? Does that work in an acceleration? Does that create an acceleration? Is that something obviously, I guess it's testable, but
yes.
Do you know about this?
Yeah, well, yeah, it creates a magnetic acceleration, yes. But, and like I said, if you listen to Ken Wheeler, he says, basically the electrostatic, the electromagnetics, i.e. dielectric, are all three heads of the same hydra, right? And what's interesting is, and this is the thing that is bothering me, especially about the claim that the more mass you have, the more gravitational pull you have. Well, experimentally, at least as far as incoherent static fields and incoherent magnetic fields, that doesn't hold true. In fact, the more incoherent and the larger incoherent mass you have, magnetically, the weaker that field becomes. So, I mean, it does not hold with the mainstream description of this. So, there's problems with it, and they need to be figured out.
Yeah, and you can vary that force with whatever, larger magnets, smaller distances, and I don't think that the same is true for gravity. The problem with saying, for me, that gravity exists, if you just say that, is people immediately then say, well, then the Earth can be a sphere. Then things are all being pulled to the center. Then planets can orbit the sun. So that's why it's a touchy situation for flat earthers, and I see the issue with people saying it doesn't exist, because I can see people say, oh, this is ridiculous. Well, how do things fall? Why do things fall? And then you just get into that whole back and forth. Whereas if you say gravity does exist, then all of a sudden people can say, well, then the Earth can be a sphere because it's pulling all the waters towards the center.
Right. That's why it's necessary to say, oh, no, because the field strength, the field energy does not exist to, sling these things around. And I think, I've been thinking about this a lot. And to make these claims, especially when mainstream science cannot measure any actual gravitational field strength, right? The only thing they can do is one simple description of, well, it makes things fall at 9.8 meters per second. That's not good enough. In fact, that was the whole thing about LIGO, right? Because nobody has ever been able to detect gravitons or any gravimetric fields. So that's why they had to make up this stupid fantasy of two black holes colliding together a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, to be able to say, well, then LIGO, another complete fantasy, all of a sudden these LIGO detectors shortened their physical arms, and the laser interferometric measuring devices picked that up at two different locations in Hanford and Livingston and said, bada bing, there's a gravitational field. But as I pointed out on Globebusters a million times, why then are LIGO detectors not able to pick up this gravitational field that is capable of lifting up thousands of tons of oceans, right?
Or from the sun, from the moon, or for anything, earthquakes.
It should be able to pick up the waves coming in off the
Oh my God! Yes, Jared, you're right.
I mean, it's super sensitive. It's huge. It's like a massive Michelson Morley machine.
Yeah. So that's what we need to be attacking. Not whether or not it exists. We need to be attacking their stupid ass, ridiculous claims that it is capable of slinging planets and ISSs and stuff around, because of the fact there simply is no measurable field strength. So how they can even derive these equations, to perform orbital calculations, is so over the top, make-believe fantasy absurd. It needs to be called out.
One technical, sort of question. You're talking about the incoherence of fields, right? And the static attraction, like essentially dust particles will attract each other more so than, bigger things, that my microphone attracts my body, right? When they become bigger.
What?
I didn't get that. Say it again, Rodrigo. That went right over my head.
I missed it too.
So you're saying, because there's obviously certain things are not captured by this gravity thing that pulls things down 9 meters per second. Like some certain things supposedly fall down those speeds, but other things also go up. But that was not going to be the question. The attraction force that we see between objects that you're talking about, right? That they have to be magnetic. That's one thing in this macro level. But I was going to ask, in their model, what is holding the atoms together? Because steel, it's pretty. Something is holding the molecules of the thing together. You can't just put your hand through it.
Well, that would be the bonding. That would be the bonding by the charge potentials of the molecules, right? Molecules are made up of atoms, and atoms, supposedly have these charges, and subatomic particles that, electrons, protons, neutrons that have this charge. So you would have a charge potential bonding that is actually holding these together, not gravity, right?
That's my point. That's my point, right? How can that be in the core of their model, and then suddenly you have outside of it, it just doesn't apply?
Exactly. Exactly. That's one of the big anomalies with all this. And, that's.
In fact, in the CERN, for example, they measure supposedly with this high, huge magnet. They measure the three of the four forces in the universe. So they trying to find the graviton because they cannot find it. They measure the the high nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the magnetism, and the electricity, but they cannot measure or found the graviton.
Exactly, Eero.
I mean, everything, all the equipment that they made, they cannot detect it. What they need to detect, they detect an electrical and magnetic universe, but not
all the time.
And if you want to believe, for example, that muons and quarks and all these kind of particles, that doesn't mean that the universe is a heliocentric universe. No, you still are measured, and you still are using particles that refer to an electrical magnetic universe. Energy. It doesn't mean that we find the muon. Well, the Earth is a sphere because we find a muon. No, because that is electrical interaction between the atmosphere and the ground, if you want to. And you put a machine in the middle and you detect electrical interaction. So that doesn't mean that the Earth is a sphere, for example, just for clarify something.
Ira, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, we know things have charge potential. We know charge potentials exist. We know magnetic potentials exist, right? And when you combine the electric and magnetic charge potentials, you get a description that we call dielectric, right? It's a dielectric type of field. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to take that dielectric energy and call it something else. They've invented the graviton. They've invented something else. And rather than admitting that it has anything to do with a magnetic or static type of field or a combination thereof, they're trying to make up something completely different that is a complete fantasy, because at that point then they no longer have to adhere to any scientific standards. They can simply say, well, yeah, absolutely. Well, this gravity lets planets sling around suns and stuff like that. It is because of that reason alone, because they have now taken it out of the realm of any measurability, any accountability, that they have done this. When in fact, it's nothing more than elements that we deal with every single day. It's static electricity and magnetism.
Yeah, and you know what? For example, when we talk about gravity, we're trying to present in our, conditions, because we are not founded by superorganism or institution to make our own investigation. But we're trying to present like a coherence model based on electricity, magnetism, and things that you can measure, and trying to apply some kind of analogy. The thing is that when you when you start listen high quality people, all of those people are going to tell you nobody knows why objects fall to the ground. Right. So could be out there another type of force, quote unquote, because it's not a force, but some kind of condition or some kind of thing that produce that condition to the object that has weight and mass go to the Earth. Of course, for me, is this electrical magnetic type of universe, but supposedly that doesn't is not the case. There is another kind of thing. Well, that doesn't mean that the Earth is a sphere, and because after all, why the celestial body never fall? Never. The condition here on the Earth is that objects go to the ground, right? But the things that we see up in the sky, no. They never move, even not move in terms of the rotation or maybe the movement, explicit movement, because of course they move, but they never change altitude.
I totally agree.
What is things that are what is the force? Is the time, the bending of time space that make the microphone go to the ground? That doesn't have any sense at all.
None. Right. Well, this is where your people are trying to apply this heliocentric model and physics to flat Earth, right? In flat Earth, to us, at least me personally, and I'll say this, let me specify this very clearly. To me personally, the planets, the stars are probably in some sort of a liquid medium. They are derived probably because of sonoluminescence type effect, right? And of course, them not being terra firma, then all of a sudden that takes away the need for any gravitational slinging of these objects around. But people will say, well, how come the planets don't fall out of the sky? And it's because they're not terra firma. That's why, again, we can't allow them to bring their stupid assumptions and their model into the flat Earth model and try and corrupt it that way and try and debunk us that way.
They cannot be rocks, right?
Right, exactly. They're not terra firma.
And I was going to ask you, on the tides, for instance, the whole thing with the tides, a lot of people don't know, but I know you've mentioned it, and there's a really good video out there. But there's places that don't have tides and places where tides vary completely different. It really makes no sense on a ball.
No, not at all.
Like Fundy tides and other places like that.
I was surprised to learn that the spherical model, the spherical model, they are still attaching the tides with the gravitation from the moon, which has no sense at all, because you mentioned so many times before here in this kind of show or Globebuster or anyone out there, why
is if it's affecting the water drops that conforming the complete ocean, why doesn't affect satellite or the water in your swimming pool or other things? I mean, it doesn't have any sense for me. It's preposterous as they are keep repeating that and no other scientists question it.
No, imagine that's a magnet that doesn't attract just the same kind of substance the same way. It doesn't make any sense. Exactly like you're saying. If it's able to pull the ocean, it should pull smaller bodies.
And in fact, it's the salt water that affects electricity and magnetism. So you have that coincidence to keep in mind. I mean, we measure, or you can present an alternative model based on how electricity and magnetism affects salt water. So that is why in sweet water you don't have this kind of tides that the equivalent at the tide that you have in the ocean. And of course,
so what you're suggesting is that there is some effect that the moon might be having on the water, but it's not this pulling effect of the tides.
I'm not suggesting that. I don't know if the moon has some kind of effect on water, but what I'm suggesting is that if the sun is an electrical device, is an electromagnetic device, and is moving, and we have the ether as a medium to connect the sky to the ground, in this case the water, and you have these big interactions between electrical and magnetic fields with salt water. Well, there you have at least a beginning of an alternative model. Maybe the moon, because it's charged by the sun, of course, it produces different type of electricity. So, of course, it's going to affect the salt water as well. But then you have the difference in temperature that also create current underwater. Then you have winds, you have a lot of things not related exactly to the tide, but you need to take also the ocean as a complete being. It's not just moving because this electrical and magnetic force or gravitational force. The ocean is always
a lot more going on. It's volcanology under the volcanoes under the sea.
It's like a living being.
Right.
Yep. So anyway, that's all I'm saying about that. I'm sorry, Jaron, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention that it's funny. I mean, even Ken Wheeler said that people who think they're smart and intellectuals will never go looking for answers to questions that they think they already know the answers to. Right. But the whole dark matter, dark energy thing are all because of the fact that gravity or the gravity equations and everything that they've figured out with gravity don't apply to the sky.
And so they're trying to hide the ether as well, which is another question here. And Bob, does the ether, it permeates everything, right?
It does. Yes, it's everywhere, all around us. In fact, in my opinion, it is the ether that is being perturbed cymatically that is actually bringing things into physical existence.
Agreed.
Okay. Right. It makes sense through sound, which is, the creation itself.
Right. And sound, of course, when I say sound, I don't mean from 3 to 30 kilohertz, right? I'm meaning all types of vibration. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the human sound spectrum that we can hear.
Right.
So maybe vibrational oscillation
would there be an end
better
to that theoretically, Bob? That spectrum, it theoretically has no end, right? We just have a way to kind of try to measure it, and we have our own scale for it, but theoretically, it could just go on to each direction. I guess we understand it as having directions in a way, in a scale.
Yeah, well, think of it this way: when if everything is like octave based, right? And this is something that's really interesting. When you talk about harmonics, you're basically talking about going up another octave or doubling the frequency or something like that. You could actually consider dimensions, right? Alternate dimensions, not as, some other woo-woo, some other place in time or something like that, but think about dimensions being at an entirely different oscillation or vibratory rate, right? So our existence consists of DC, DC direct current.
It's a density of matter that spiritualists would call that certain kinds of density of the matter. And then once you transcend this body, you're off to a different realm.
Then you are at a different vibrational level or another octave that is outside of our known realm of oscillations. Right now, our oscillations are going from like DC, so to speak, direct current, to up into the gamma range, right? Gamma light. And then what goes beyond that? What is a million times higher than that oscillation rate? Or, we also base these oscillations based on what we perceive of as time. Well, what if this concept of time is something different somewhere else, and there are actually sub-oscillations in a different, temporal frame of reference, to create another realm of a dimension, right? Now that's something that we can actually wrap our head around, and that's something that to me actually makes sense rather than having 42 different dimensions.
Multiverse.
Exactly. Makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, the important thing here, what I take it from all this kind of discussion is that after 10,000 years, we don't advance or going forward in the main important question of life. We don't have a clue. Right. Why we are here, how all this works. We create computers, microwaves, radio, television, internet, fine. How is that the human beings exist, and what is the magical thing that give lives, and where are the thoughts in terms of the dimension? We don't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It doesn't matter how technology you have.
But we know that the body is full of this electromagnetic stuff as well.
Yeah, but that kind of things, it's always well known for from other civilization in the past. And I believe the other civilization has a really best understanding of our spiritual existence. Yeah,
and why would it be hidden? This is one of the questions, Ito, that I think is fascinating, because we get this kind of mainstream history in school, right? And then nobody learns about Chinese astronomy from the 10th century. How developed it was and how they had these manuals and maps and whatnot. Why not? People are deprived from this stuff, and then they're just bombarded with propaganda. But it's out there, and it's crazy. That's another crime, comparable to those songs at a different level. Like you're saying, all this stuff from the past. This should be basic stuff early on when you're learning about the world. What people in the past have thought and how different it was, and how you should make your own mind on how to proceed from there. I think.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yep, I agree. But we need to get away from this theoretical, using wild imagination stuff of things that we can never, possibly even grasp, or, like the whole concept of gravitational waves, supposedly when they're passing through an object, that they will actually physically change its size. We have no example of that anywhere. And for science to allow that to just slip through the not only just slip through the cracks, but be based upon the greatest discovery since Einstein, right, of gravitational waves, is patently absurd. Talk about going off into Narnia. Wow.
Oh. Yeah, the mistakes that they get caught up on, it's like, they're so crazy. I guess people have to dismiss them because, how does that work to save their face, right? How do you save their face? Ito was showing that thing in the Nobel Prize, the physics Nobel Prize, with the coffee cup.
Exactly. We explain the universe with a cup of coffee with cream and milk. That just there, it's telling you, we don't know a fact about the universe. We're still trying, and we just create like a matrix upon another matrix the natural matrix. We created an alternative that it's only true in your mind and through our devices like the computer and television, things like that. We're going to tell you stories about what we think it is, but we don't have any clue. And we cannot go there. They have a Nobel Prize. We cannot go there. We cannot even recreate in lab this kind of stuff.
They have the money for the Nobel Prize, and they have the prestige, and that's what counts. In their world, that's good enough. That's why you get these nerds that they want to try some propulsion system with some whatever they make up that they claim is going to work in space. They can get a bunch of money if you go. They have an engineering degree or do a master's, whatever. You can get a NASA grant and work on this idea, get paid, make a little machine, and then go, babble about how it should be working. 200 years from now, it should lead into something. It's possible nowadays.
Dude, the way I see like all of this, a big part of the whole lie in general, it's about like this metaphysical advantage that this group of people, the Grabblers, think they have by understanding energy better than us. And so the ether is an energy field. Gold is superconductive, maybe has a high magnetic permeability they know about. That's why gold's always been so important. Mm-hmm. It's all about like harnessing literal energy, and that we're encompassing the energy field. And if none of us know about it, they feel like they have this huge metaphysical advantage. Yeah.
Exactly, Austin. Yeah, spot on. Yep.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, when you go to Kabbalistics, you have the concept of particle universe was created by the Kabbalah.
The
and
monads and things like that,
exactly.
Right?
All that kind of thing, the Sephirot are transferred into quote-unquote science. And then you have the Jesuit order that create the heliocentric model. And for me, when you go into the symbolics of that, you can clearly see why they both use, for example, the same kind of Messiah, the same kind of cloth, the same book, which is the Bible, the Judeo-Christian religion. So they work together, and they keep this heliocentric model on the road because they work together. All the people behind the quantum theory are Kabbalists, all of it. And then you have all the guys behind the heliocentric and Big Bang universe are from the Jesuit order, and that is mainstream science. That is mainstream history. This is not even a conspiracy or something.
Right. It's
take
easy
it
to
out
find
of
the list
a
of the
magical
astronomers,
box.
right?
Exactly.
And their orders, their scientific institutions, they're proud of it, right? You talked about this.
Completely proud of it. Exactly. They go out there in the mainstream and saying, well, now we can appreciate very, very good how the Kabbalistic 2,000 years ago, they know how the Big Bang was created and all these particle universe that you can separate and divide and split this atom in thousands of other particles, subatomic particles. They are all Kabbalists. And exactly. They are, and then you have the Jesuit order presented the heliocentric model of the universe. I mean, the Kabbalists, they are talking about tiny spheroids. Mm-hmm. And the Jesuit order talks about the biggest spheroid, which is the planet, supposedly, the stars, and, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And they work together in religion and in science.
Exactly, Uru. And what do we have now for the latest branch of Kabbalistic science is none other than quantum mechanics. Right. Again, it's all about this bean counting. They deny that to them everything has to be physical, has to be countable. Absolutely has to be materialistic. Has to be
so
material.
Weird because that's what we're being establishing, right? Inside their atomic model and everything, it's not like that. You have to have the electricity is what connected us here. That's why we're talking. And that charge that Jaron was talking about the other day, that people get that to be a flat earther or to disagree with their model, you have to be against science, right? Whereas actually science is confirming what you've been talking about for years, and the ether and the light and all this stuff, and yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy that we need to be running back in circles to against these, like the MacToons, whatever. It's just why it makes you wonder why we're here. Is what Ida was saying before. Why, if people cannot see what's right in front of their face. It's pretty, sorry for frustrated a little bit.
No, I mean,
Aren't we all?
We all get upset with these things because, we have to deal with it and we have to confront it on a daily basis. And It's all good that everybody has different opinions and different thoughts about stuff, but a lot of the times these different belief systems, people want to extend them into something more than that. They want to insist that they are actually reality. And what really bugs me is when people start attacking other people because they have different opinions, in that general area. So, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But it is crazy. But the best thing to do is just honestly look into this stuff and have discussions about it, just like what we're doing right now. Right here, right now on Jaron Show, we're talking about this, and nobody's getting their feathers ruffled or anything like that. And I think really we have a lot more common ground than most people might think. It's just a matter of being willing to let the defenses drop.
Yeah, it's okay to disagree. And sometimes you just have to listen and not. I don't know.
It's kind of important. Imagine if everybody just agreed on everything. That's a religious sect. That's how it is. Everybody just has to agree on everything.
Yeah, right. That's the way most people think it needs to go. That we all need to agree, or else there's a problem. And I don't think that's the way it is at all.
It shouldn't be like that. Actually, the fact that you disagree on details means that you're pushing forward in different directions. Otherwise, you're locked into a system. You're not growing.
Exactly.
And it's okay not to believe today, not to agree today, because the more you hear it, sometimes that's what it takes. And then something you see a week from now or a month from now or a year from now makes it all click. And you kind of go back and, okay, now that makes sense. Because, anybody who thinks they know everything today is wrong. Hate to tell you guys.
Well, like I was saying the other day, the people that think they know everything are really annoying to those of us who do. That's just kidding, guys.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here we go. I can just hear the clicks now.
Oh boy.
Bob thinks he knows everything.
Oh boy. It's too funny. Have you gotten any more feedback, Austin, on your debate? People up in arms about it? How do they feel?
Yeah, of course the gammas are still in full freak out melt mode, but I had a conversation with McToon a little bit, because in the debate I had asked him about the necessary antecedent to gas pressure being a physical container, and he just shucked and jived. And on the comments, it is, dude. And on the comments, he finally started to readdress it, like trying to draw me back in. I was like, look, man, I know more about your religion than you, bro. I'm not trying to teach you. And he kept poking me. So we went down the roll, and sure enough, he doesn't even know the distinction between Einsteinian gravity and Newtonian gravity and which one he's invoking and how is gravity affecting gas and what's the mass of the gas. And again, it still needs a physical. It's exhausting, bro.
He's just a sci-fi nerd, kind of, watches space.com and memorizes it or something.
Right. I saw some videos showing that he's admitted that he's learned a lot from flat earthers.
At least. No, but I like how you wouldn't let him get away with it, Austin. That's what I really like. Because, what he was trying to do is very annoying. And I like how you recapitulated the situation, said this is what's going on, and you're not going to get away with it. And he just kept on coming back to that Dwayne Callan video.
Yeah.
Ugh. But at least, it looked bad for him that he did that, I think, because anybody, even if you're a Glober, you're like, okay, man, show us more evidence. Because it's pretty clear he was dodging the question.
Right. And, dude, for me, I think a lot of people thought I, enjoyed that. And I was like, I'm dominating him. But, it was exhausting to me because I thought it, undermined the value of the content.
You had to do it.
Right. It was an hour. It was an hour and a half. We could have talked about all kinds of things. It could have been super informative for the third-party viewer, but instead he wanted to make it where it was just constant wizardry.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That seemed to be all it was, and they always have to play that game. I don't know if they have any other defenses. Iru, you want to talk about that taboo video a little bit? I know Rodrigo hadn't seen it, or
yep. The beer or the coffee?
Coffee, I'll pull it up here.
The famous coffee, yeah. The coffee drinking in the bag of plastic bag.
Yeah, because I wanted to get your take on it. I thought it was interesting, but, let's bring it up here. Oops, not that one. Or is it this one? I guess we could watch the whole video. How long is it? It's only 5 minutes. We'll watch it.
Yeah. To present indisputable evidence that space...
Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm back today to present indisputable evidence that space is fake and that the Earth is flat. Let's first begin with an utter debunking of NASA, the International Space Station, and SpaceX. These shocking fakery proofs come from YouTuber Tell Me What You Love. If you're not a subscriber, you must subscribe to his channel because I can't do his work justice. He combines hard-hitting proofs with music and laughter. It's awesome. I'll have a link in the description, but please head over there and subscribe. These are all great proofs of space fakery, but I'm going to save the best proof for last. This first clip is from SpaceX. I'm sure all of you remember how alleged space rocket launch...
Now, you've seen this before? You've seen these ones I've pointed out before, right? Where the camera points straight down the whole time.
Exactly. And in fact, I have a high altitude balloon from a launch from SpaceX at the beginning of the SpaceX, and nobody goes out there. no rockets get out of this world.
Right.
The arc and fall back down towards the Earth. I have definitely shared these videos many times, but you'll often read in the comments where the globe propagandist claims that the rocket has to level out to get into space. It's nonsense. There's absolutely no evidence supporting this claim, and the altimeter information provided by NASA contradicts the assertion. SpaceX launches are no different than NASA, but this clip will prove it. There's the space scam rocket, and it also arcs back downward, just like NASA. Of course, the propagandist is rearing to say that the SpaceX rocket has to arc downward to get into space. So what's the problem? Well, the SpaceX rocket had a camera on it. The rocket turns horizontally, but the camera angle does not change. Oops. SpaceX sucks at CGI as well, but it's pretty hard to keep all the lies straight, I imagine. The next proof is quick and probably not the best one out there, but check out this SpaceX launch. It looks like the bird, or whatever it is, actually goes through the rocket. I don't know what to make of it, but it's fascinating. Are there actually SpaceX rocket launches? Of course there are, but what we see on television is primarily CGI. But let me get to the best proof of 2020. The video clip we're going to watch comes from this semi-official video.
So this is the one that we're talking about here, Rodrigo.
I'll have a link in the description. I love this clip because it involves the dumbest of the astronauts named Don Pettit. Although this one isn't his fault because he played his acting role fairly well. But this is hilarious. So, Don Pettit was supposedly demonstrating drinking coffee in space. Yes, very important. Of course, this part is sped up. But now we're going to watch the clip unedited. The sound is messed up in the original video, but that's not really the issue. Watch carefully.
And the coffee continues to climb up that acute angle and until the whole bag is drained. And
that is the coup de grace. The color of the coffee impossibly separated from its container. Without question, 100%, NASA is lying and using CGI to fake space. That, my friends, is a blatant CGI error, and there is no excuse. It can't be an innocent glitch of any sort, because the color entirely separated from the CGI object. NASA is busted. The ISS is busted. NASA is a criminal organization that steals $61,748,634 per day under false pretense. Thank you, Tell Me What You Love, for this astounding proof.
We'll come back and talk about it. Let's just finish the video.
Of NASA's lies.
Don, we really enjoyed that. This is a lot of fun.
I just want to quickly cover another ugly duckling horizon proof from Wide Awake. Please subscribe to his channel if you haven't. As a quick refresher, the 16-foot ocean channel marker called Cutter Rock was 11.23 miles away from Wide Awake. Wide Awake brought his camera down to just 28 inches off of the water. Watch this small clip from Wide Awake.
My camera's here, water's right there. I mean, a few inches above. But there's Cutter's Rock. You can see it flashing. And I'm at 28 inches. And
Based on the official dimensions of the globe, the very top of that rack should be 43 feet below the horizon. But the ugly duckling horizon proof is even better, because that globe horizon, if it existed, should have been closer than 1.9 miles. Instead, the horizon was obviously further than 11.22 miles, which means that none of that rack is being hidden behind a curvature. The globe physical horizon does not exist, and because that physical globe horizon does not exist as mandated by the globe model, there simply is no globe. There you have it. They lied about space, and they lied about the fundamental shape of the Earth. Yes, it's rather shocking, but that big truth will bring you closer to your Creator and set you free.
Hey, thanks for proving the globe, you flatards.
I mean, these are going to start popping up everywhere, so great job to Taboo to point this out. And again, you can see the physical horizon, the supposed edge of the sphere, far beyond where it should be. I mean, at least 10 miles or 11 miles, 12 miles past where it should be. And once again, you have somebody that's going to be out to debunk this, right, Ranty?
Absolutely.
Okay. Should be interesting. Yeah. Have you heard has he told you at all what his debunk is, or?
No. He contacted me today and said, would he be welcome to come and do a presentation this evening on the Black Swan and how he's going to explain it on a globe Earth. So should be interesting. That's Bob the Science Guy.
I can't even begin to imagine what he's going to come up with. So definitely worth tuning in. That'll be on your channel tonight. And then what's the other thing you have going?
And then after that, we've got Rude Earther that's doing a gyroscope. So he's pulled apart his gyroscope and he's taken out the GPS tracking on it, etc. And he's got it all wired up to his PC and everything. And he's filming it on a few different, like cameras. And he's going to be doing it live. So he's going to be showing the gyroscope working live. And he's going to be looking for any kind of Earth turn that he doesn't think we're going to find. So we'll see.
So Shane, is his gyroscope, it's an electric one, I take it? Because it was part of a GPS or part of a gyro compass?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good, because one thing I will say about the mechanical gyroscopes, as we found out, recently in FE Core, is even if you have a really, really nice gyroscope, once you get above specific RPMs and below specific RPMs, something that will happen with the gyroscopes is they will experience something that is called friction torque, right? In other words, the friction itself will cause a specific amount of torque that will actually cause the gyro to precess. And if you are an overzealous glober, or somebody with no common sense whatsoever, you would be tempted to call that Earth rate drift, which it is not.
Will it rotate, or will it drift, or whatever you want to call it, precess in opposite directions based on the RPMs?
Actually, yeah, it does. It does drift in opposite directions.
Right. Well, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem, and like I said, there's quite a kerfuffle over that.
So it's just a slowing down of it over time. Is that it from some sort of viscosity of the air or something like this, or no?
Yeah, you'll have to read it in the FE Core chat, and I'll tell you all about it. But it turned into one huge mess.
But basically, at a high RPMs, then the friction is causing it to basically over precess. I don't know. That's probably not the right word. And then at a lower, then it kind of moves backwards over time because of the mechanical nature of it.
Yeah, and it all has to do with the basic friction characteristics of the gyro itself. The bearings or whatever. There becomes, when you go up beyond a certain RPM, the friction of the bearings then becomes a significant factor and will cause a precession. And then there's a sweet spot where, it doesn't do anything, but then the opposite occurs on the downspin, where the bearing friction, the motion of the gyroscope is not causing enough of a gyroscopic lock to stop it from precessing, and then it precesses in the opposite direction, which, like I said, you've got two things happening there. You've got the precession in opposite directions, which is a huge problem, But then depending on where you cut off those RPMs and do your measurements, some people might be tempted to call those Earth rate precessions, by averaging it out. And oh my God.
Especially
just one of those things.
Focalt didn't have any problems with that, and Spyro didn't have any problems with that.
Yeah, I know.
They had no friction issues.
Exactly. And then there are other people that call like our little $300 precision gyros, they call them toy gyroscopes because they're so small. But the interesting thing is FE Core about 3-4 months ago got a hold of a really nice gyro compass. And this thing is absolutely huge, but what's really interesting about it is the gyroscopic element itself is actually smaller than our supposed toy gyroscopes, our precision gyroscopes. So size really doesn't seem to matter, and anybody that tells you that they have to be a certain size, unfortunately, that's just not true. So,
Bob, I was just wondering one thing, if you know, and whether it makes sense to even think that there would be any effect such as the Elias effect on gyroscopes during eclipses.
I don't know, but I would speculate that yes, there would be, because I think that one of the things that is going on with the gyro compass and how it will automatically find north, but not entirely automatically. You have to tell it what latitude that you're at. But I think what's going on there is something that is caused by Lenz's law, where essentially you have the ether that's rotating and you also have the magnetic field that is rotating. And I believe that is exerting a specific amount of pressure on the gyroscope itself. And then the gyroscope, because of that field, cutting across the conductive surface of the gyroscope, it is then generating a counter magnetic field, which is creating this Lenz's law type of effect. Lenz's law, for those of you that don't know what that is, it's the effect that when you take a magnet, for example, and you drop it down the center of a copper pipe, and of course copper, being a non-magnetic or any type of non-magnetic material, if you drop that magnet down that pipe, it will slow way down and just barely creep through then. So what's actually happening is the same thing that I believe is happening with the gyroscope. The magnet, as it passes down the center of the pipe, is moving. It's that motion magnetic field. And we all know that when you have a magnetic field in motion, it then induces a current flow, right? An electron flow, if you will. And conversely, whenever you have a current flow or an electron flow through a conductor, which copper would be, it generates a magnetic field. Well, this magnetic field just happens to be 180 degrees in opposition to the magnetic field that's causing it as it drops down. Therefore, you get this repulsive effect that slows it way down. This is called Lenz's law. And so in answer to your question, Rodrigo, yeah, I believe that the Elias effect could very much have something to do with that, because when you have an eclipse, it only would stand to reason, in the EM model, that you would be getting changes and variations in the EM field, which could very significantly cause that to happen. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, but yeah, I mean, it would have to be connected somehow through the ether.
Yeah, that masking floor that you're showing there, Jeren, it's wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Iru, I mentioned it right before. Iru was thinking that he doesn't quite agree with it. Iru, what do you think that it is? Go ahead and explain what you think.
First of all, what I'm saying before is that we have so many examples of the fakery inside the ISS that this kind of things, for me, is not conclusive thing, because I have seen so many times, because I work on television, the glitches, the type of glitches that you're going to receive, that it's, for me, that kind of, I never uploaded that kind of idea, because if you are working every day with streaming, you're going to see really, really weird things in terms of compression of the signal sent by or managing in terms of internet, sending, receiving. So this kind of split of the color could be some kind of malfunction. This is not for me anything that is conclusive in terms of, because they are doing this, or this color separation is there, that must be a CGI or fakery. Because after all, the complete video when Don Pettit is drinking this coffee, it's a 30 seconds, 1 minute with this kind of blue background that could be easily made in a zero-G plane. I mean, this is not something that, for me at least, is something that, this is conclusive fakery inside the ISS. We have so many other examples to conclude that this is not even, how you know that this is inside of the ISS. For example, because I never found the complete experiment, the complete video, and even if he take out the background, type of silk background that he had, what does matter? I mean, it's just when the videos get end, everything is like having this compression issue. So,
Ira, does it even look like he's really drinking anything to you? It doesn't to me. I don't think he's drinking anything.
I watched that part, and if you start looking into the inside of the bag, the plastic bag, is supposedly he's drinking something. I mean, the liquid is start to you can compare at the beginning, at the end, and you have less liquid inside that bag. But I mean, They have been practicing and playing with liquids inside of zero-G planes like from the 80s, from the 70s. I mean, for me, it's like, this could be another issue for the ISS or not, but it's not a conclusive thing because you have this kind of compression thing going on. And in fact, when you see a lot of the actual ISS live feed, when you have this ugly compression with the background is static and the astronaut are moving and start to melt down in colors and weird things. Well, unfortunately, that is why the compression works. I mean, if you have an static background, the computer knows that is static, so it's not going to apply bit rate on that particular background. So the computer leaves static. That is why the astronaut start melting down in colors, because that is the way the compression works, and it's completely fine. It's not because you are using blue screen or green screen in the background. It doesn't have nothing to do with that. I know there's a lot of.
I see the liquid bouncing off the open end that he's drinking out of. When he takes it away from his mouth, you see the liquid bouncing back and forth, and then it's there. I mean, it's right on the end. It doesn't escape the bag at all.
No, supposedly he invented that kind of quote unquote technology for drinking coffee without having issues with the liquid bouncing all around. It's like have like a special protection inside that keeps the coffee just in some part of the bag, of the plastic bag.
It's an open plastic. It's an open plastic end on the end. It's an open bag at the end.
Yes, it's open, but it's like a dual layer plastic thing where you have liquid content inside of this plastic bag. It's not. He explained it.
So that's why it
in the
stays
full
down.
video.
That's why it stays down here. It's supposed to, and stays down here. That's kind of the design of it.
Yeah, exactly. That
doesn't
is
even look like
the
coffee,
kind of super invention for drinking coffee in space.
I just think this part is really weird. I don't quite get how
it's weird.
It's very weird.
It's weird.
There's one I sent you, Jared, the lemon one. I don't know if you've seen that one before.
Oh yeah,
Jared.
let me bring that up. Yeah, I've seen it recently. I think Taboo put it on his video, but oops.
Well, that is another thing. More, more. If you ask to me, this is more impressive than the bag, than the plastic bag, for example. Because the chance that you're gonna have some kind of error like this, based on natural behavior of the compression, the computer, the image, the video, blah blah blah, it's very, very rare. I mean, this is more like something that, it's another layer, if you want to see in that way, because that's strange. I mean, you are not going to have this fade with a finger passing over the.
I don't think so. I mean, if I tried to film it on, no matter what camera I try and film it on, I'm not going to ever get that.
No. The only explanation that you can have is some kind of weird motion blur at the beginning, where the finger is like penetrating the lemon, but after that the hand is start to slowing down, you don't have anymore this motion blur, so it doesn't have any sense to mix together the images. I mean, it
seems like the hand's coming from behind, right? The lemon, and then it goes through it.
Yes.
Certainly what it looks like.
For me, these videos are just like sprinkles on the icing, because, I mean, you just only need one time, and then that means they are faking it at least once, which means why you got to fake it. But for me, both of these look like CGI glitches for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I can't understand on the other one at all how you would have a color separation and leave the bag clear. I mean, to me, it seems like he would be basically doing this whole thing with just a clear bag. And you could very easily put in this kind of fake coffee, which doesn't even look like coffee to me. But it just seems like something you could add in post-production or something, and I don't know. And then
but they can use, for example, honey, if you want to make some kind of, shelly type of liquid with that kind of color. I mean, it doesn't have any sense to leave the image as it is. If you have the opportunity to post production, and at that time, this kind of CGI liquids, it's very strange. I mean, it's very difficult to manage liquid in CGI. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But I would just picture
it's an old video. It's not from our
no, this has been
era
around for a while.
Of.
It's been around for a while, right? Years.
Yeah, years. So I mean,
it just seems weird to me.
When you work when you work with streaming, you have a lot of, and I am not an expert, but I have seen people, because I participate in live shows and things like that, with via satellite, quote unquote, images from musical and things like that. And you have a lot of wide range of technology that split color. You can send separate, in separate channels, separate colors for,
But there's nothing,
you have it's not RGB. You have a lot of things when you trying to transmit video.
The way I kind of think about it, Jeroen, and tell me where I'm wrong here, is that, if I had a plastic water bottle and I put some sort of blue liquid in it, if I move that bottle back and forth, I do it very fast, I flip that bottle, whatever, how would you ever have the blue liquid separate itself from the bottle and leave the bottle appearing to be empty like this? Because there's nothing for the
but you still have the different grade on the part of supposedly the liquid. I mean, you have that kind of thickness in the bottom of the plastic bag.
Right, but
what I mean. You still have like a dark blue color. If you go a little back in time, because I cannot.
Right.
I cannot use your the mouse to say what I mean, but
you'll have to tell me when.
Not that part. Let just finish. I mean, just that kind of behavior in liquids for that time, that video in time.
To be honest, it would take him a long time to get a good drink of coffee. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think this is retarded, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. I think this is definitely the way I see it. Because the best I'm understanding of what you're saying is that it would just be like a video glitch where it moved it over. But what doesn't make sense to me is the overlay of the cover separating. But why would there not be anything still there? I can see it glitching over a little bit to the right, but not like removing it from the bag. If you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly.
You still see this part of the bag.
Yeah. The problem is.
How could the video have any idea of what the bag would look like empty?
Exactly.
No, but in that part is the only part that has color. Is that the only channel different than the the plastic? The plastic is transparent, and you have only the background, which is blue. You don't have even the don't pet it in the scene to see if other colors are treated in the same way.
Gotcha. All right.
So I mean, but I am not have here. If you start looking into possible glitches based on live transmitting video, you're gonna have like a super wide range of super strange things. So that is why I am not saying the ISS is real.
No,
not at all. Not at all.
We get it.
What
It's
I'm
not
saying
conclusive.
is,
we get it. Yeah,
it's not conclusive. I mean,
and you're
this
totally
is
right.
just
There's
like
far
a
more
separation color, produced by the signal. And because it's at the end of the signal, maybe somebody press the button, okay, stop recording, stop sending signal. So you have all these kind of glitches, but nothing more than that. I mean, we have so many other proof, tangible proof that the ISS is fake.
If I may chime in here, like I would say, to settle the deal, you would have to find a video that has the same kind of glitch happening. That's not a NASA video, because in a NASA video, everyone's got their defenses up. We know that they've been faking so much that we're going to be very suspicious, right? What we see in the behavior of the liquid and so on. There'll be many details. And the fact it is a NASA video makes it more of a problem to settle the argument for Iro.
No, of course. And if you see the video at that moment, it's not just the orange color that moved to the right. It's the complete image that has like a moving into the right of the
that's why I think it's a layering problem,
right?
Yeah,
but layering could be a color channel layering. It's not doesn't, because if they want to fake the thing is,
I agree with you on this one. I agree with you on this one, that the fact is that you could do this on a zero-G plane easily, and you'd be able to develop some device with liquid in it. You should be able to do this without faking it. So the fact that they would be faking this is ridiculous. It would be so easy just to do it.
It's like
for real
the Oakland Racer. I mean, why are you going to post-product these? First of all, at that time, I really tell you, I mean, the CGI in terms of the fluid is very difficult to achieve.
Do you know when this is from? Do you remember?
It's
old.
Do
you remember the date?
But I mean, even if you look at the NASA symbol, I mean, this is how bad this video is. I mean, the NASA symbol is.
I think they might just got a little too big for their britches, and they tried to whip the CGI out a little early, and that's why something this obvious happened. But I don't know.
No, and I still think. I mean, I understand Iru's position. My position is I can't imagine this happening. How it would remove this color and leave this bag looking empty again.
I understand a little bit the idea of the color channels, because I know that's how color correction works. You can completely turn off the reds and so on. And in some systems of television, how television is transmitted, it is transmitted in different channels.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Like if you did if you did like a color, what was it called?
It would be different than a digital production.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So you're saying if you chroma keyed out this color, it would appear. It would look like this. It would leave this. Is that kind of what you're saying, Eero?
Yeah. You could test it. You could test that. You could test the proposition.
And not just that, but in television, we don't use RGB directly. You have like another setup in terms of the channeling that you use for color. It's not RGB. RGB is just the computer in terms of the monitor, but you have the white, red, green, blue. Yeah. I cannot remember exactly the name of that they use, but you have a lot of wide range. And I know that I'm very generic at that moment because I cannot remember the names technically. But you have, streaming video is. It could be very nightmare in terms of how you receive the signal and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, again, this could be something that belong to the streaming itself or belong to a fakery in post-production, which I don't believe, because if you play the video, you're going to have, after that, you're going to have the typical compression situation where it start appear all like tiny squares.
Right.
You know what? I honestly do not think that there's any coffee in that bag whatsoever. Furthermore, I think that Baller Iru has the real Iru tied up in the back room.
Could be.
Yeah,
could be, man.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the nose out on 9/11
right.
with the plane.
Right.
You know where the plane goes through the building and they've got that glitch.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. You know, for on the other hand, you know, I get Iru's initial point was that, you know, there's a lot of evidence. Like, for instance, the one with Scott Kelly and the other astronauts, when they take that backflip or whatever, and they get all entangled, and someone has to press the button in the wall, and you hear the noise, and you see the string pulling against the shirt. You know, that's very, very conclusive. That's the kind of thing that is just very much, you know, that it's like a nail in the head kind of thing. There's no way around it. That you hear all the noises. Here, you know, we can get these arguments. I mean, and I know, you know, I understand people be very, very suspicious of NASA, but and I don't find it conclusive but I understand what Iru's saying too, that it's possible. It is possible, but also, you know, you can test it. You can color correct the video and see if you can get rid of just the yellow.
I just think it's good to add to the preponderance. It's just good to keep adding these things, because you never. I think that to say something would ever be conclusive. There could be an answer for anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
the problem is that we don't have other color to test in that image. Unfortunately, we have the blue color and nobody else on the image. So you don't have. That is why I say it's not conclusive, because you don't have other color to test how separate the color channel. Sorry, Jaron, you get what I mean by the Scott Kelly one being very conclusive in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, I don't know, the whole one of the astronauts flipping in that whole moment where it kind of glitches out, I think is highly, I mean, again, I don't deal with it as much as Iru. That's why I like to ask Iru these questions, because I don't deal every day with editing like that. In my editing, in my video editing, in my video software, I've never seen anything like that. Now, that's just, I don't do live transmissions of my video, right? If I did, I mean, I do sometimes, but I'm saying I don't.
Yeah, but you are talking about, for example, let me just clarify this.
Okay.
There are complete different when you are streaming via internet than when you are transmitting via, I don't know which is the name in English, but, you know, when you have, for example, a camera, exactly, when you have a camera and that camera has a pack to transmit signal to another receiver, maybe 2 kilometers away or 200 meters away, it's completely different. It's not the same kind of technology that you use when you transmit on internet
that's why I'm
cable.
saying. That's why I don't have the expertise to say it one way or the other. But I do think Iru does, and Iru has seen things and has worked in television where there is live video transmitting through airwaves, where you're going to get some glitches.
I think that the basic way to understand it in the way I see it is that you have these 3 channels for color in television transmission. So
no, you have more color. There is no RGB transmitter.
No. Okay,
you can have like 6 channels, for example.
Okay, but they'll be taking different colors. Is that the idea? And then if you have a phase difference, you can get a different frame to be superimposed with a frame from before or something like that, or something that comes in earlier or later, and then you get a glitch.
I just think this video is so shitty that it doesn't really matter anyway.
You get a leak.
Yeah, but that is not, this is not like a glitch. That is more a color separation, which is different than the glitches.
For me, it's weird that it seems like he's sucking into this liquid, but do we see it coming into his mouth, or do we see it coming?
Look how far it looks like this would be into his mouth. See where the edge of this bag is? To me, it doesn't even seem like, I mean, I agree with Bob on this one that,
how much water we're supposed to drink in a day? It's something like 6 liters, isn't it? I'd say there's about, half a cup in there?
I mean, doesn't this look like the rest of this would go to about here if you drew this line out? It would be, you know, so does he have this bag and 2 inches into his mouth? I don't know.
Probably.
That's right. How is he swallowing half of it?
He's got half. He's got half.
He's giving himself a smiley, isn't he?
This would like cut your lips. I don't know.
I just like the compilations of them, right? Like when you like you said, adding to the preponderance of it. If you just have a compilation of all of these glitches, you can't really just excuse them all the way to coincidence, you know?
No, and again, I don't know where there's examples of this kind of stuff that we could go see. I mean, I've talked about baseball games before or other live sporting events. You're never going to see issues like that. It's I don't know.
Because you don't have, but you need to have the condition of
that's what I'm saying.
A solid background color and just one color present in the image, which is this orange color. And because the plastic is white.
No, that's the
like
thing. It's
on this bag, does it flip like in all angles so you can see its volume and everything, or does it just stay sideways like this all the time?
Well, he flips it. I mean, you mean like that?
Or like, does it show the entrance or the front of it? How wide it is?
I don't know.
Dude, why does the dude like shove it down his throat though? Ever since Jan pointed that out,
it does look a little bit further than it should be on. Like there's okay, he's got a little tip of it, but then on the one he's like goes all the way in his mouth. I'll have to pause.
He's like eating the bag, bro.
It's definitely strange.
The bubble, you know, that kind of bubble.
There's a bubble there.
Yeah, if you want to fake that in CGI, it's no easy, even in our days. That for me, if you go to the Oakland Razor, it's more easy to do in the zero-G plane with real.
That's what I agree
with.
With
Real
liquid,
that's where I agree with real plastic bag, and at the end of the video, because they stop transmitting, they have a simple compression error. But again, because you see this crap, it doesn't mean that the ISS is real and everything inside is real. No,
I think most of the stuff that they do, and that's why a lot of people have commented on the different magnets that they use or these videos they do, but they're always very short, and I've always assumed that they've been done in a zero-G plane where what they're doing is possible. I think it's very possible to do this in a zero-G plane. So that's the only reason I would agree completely with Iru. I just don't see any reason you would need
and play the video completely, because at in one particular moment when the videos end, not the video end, when finish the transmission, you have like a block problem compression at the end.
You mean
let me just.
Yeah, this is definitely different than the microphone in the neck of Chris Hadfield.
This is where I see what you were saying. Here you can see on the top.
Right, the separation, the color separation, which has to do more with again like a compression error or things like that.
You can actually see the line. The line continues.
Yeah, different color. You have another blue on the back, on the bottom of that orange line. But this is not what I refer. What I mean. If you just play the video, and let's just finish.
Following the.
No, go back to the original without the zoom. Without the zoom.
Oh, yeah. This one?
It's going to be a bunch of little squares.
Let it finish. Let it finish too. We have the Forrest Gump in the ISS drinking.
It just cuts very quickly.
They're in the space. Don't pet it. No, it's amazing how this supposedly. This is the cream of the cream of the. There you have it. There you go.
I saw it.
So I mean. It's related. You cannot leave, if we are in the court, you cannot leave that from outside of your supposed claim, you know, because just at that particular moment, you had the compression issue with the color separation. You don't have other things to compare in terms of the color. You have the complete image that go to the right. It's not just the orange thing. It's everything goes to the right.
Now you've got the bag here with the bag here.
I mean, that is why I say this is not conclusive.
It's also different than those microphones that suddenly morph shape, right, and come back in a different shape. That have you seen those as well?
Yeah, that is very weird. For example, that is more weird than this kind of finished video when everything is. But let me just share the screen for a moment.
All right, you can screen share?
Yeah. I didn't do so many share screen. No, because I want to, at the beginning of the Taboo Conspiracy video, he starts showing the path, the curved path of the rockets. And I showed this before. This is a balloon launch in 2015. And this, where I have the mouse right now, it's Cape Canaveral with a SpaceX rocket launch, exactly. So unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's from a plane or if it's, for example, from a balloon. And this is the only that I found in terms of the balloon. We never see how the rocket finish. I mean, it's clearly that
too far away.
The rocket is taken away, and from your view, supposedly right now the rocket is up here, and this in the curved path trajectory. And remember, this is the cloud. So the cloud, it's about 8 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers. If you want
hard to see it.
I mean, in altitude, because you don't have clouds at 30 kilometers in the atmosphere. So what I'm trying to say is, from this tiny point here, which is the rocket, to the ground, is not more than, right now in this particular moment, it's not more than 40 kilometers. And you don't going to see how it finished. And here you can clearly see how it start curving the path. Right. And, I mean, where it goes. How many kilometers are you seeing from the balloon to that smoke column? How many? 200 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 400 kilometers, supposedly, if you want to, this is an optical camera. This is not even an infrared camera, nothing like that. I mean, you are not seeing 2,000, 3,000 kilometers.
Right.
And I mean, what I'm trying to say is, this rocket here, it cannot go.
It's not very far.
It's not very far. It's not going to, go to the side of the spherical Earth and reach space.
Right. Yeah, and even at this altitude, guys, I mean, going back to that point I made last week on Globebusters, is look how easy it is, even from this high angle of incidence, how easy it is to tell the massive difference in elevation between the clouds and the ground, right? So why wouldn't we be able to see curvature if it was actually there?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And why we don't have, for example, that will be nice, if you think in terms of, we are going to, the first time ever, to synchronize a rocket launch from the ground with a helicopter in the middle, with a balloon in the next step, and even filming from the space, from the ISS, we are filming, or for some other, spaceship, we are going to film from the ground, filming starting from the ground to the end of the atmosphere when reach the orbital path, or whatever you want to call it, all in this, we don't have that kind of thing.
No, of course
we don't have any real proof of some kind of continuous feed from the ground to the space. And when you start looking into planes or even this kind of balloons, we don't see, look, it's still like inside of the globe of the stratosphere. This is 30, 40 kilometers, and it not have any more rocket propulsion. I mean,
what moment is this? Are they claiming this? Do they synchronize this with the?
Are you saying we should be able
launch?
to see this rocket going this way? For you can't see the screen.
No, but I believe it's coming from the back. It's not going up. Just it's like coming from the horizon towards us.
Right.
So
as well.
To
not
the
going
ocean.
Sideways.
Exactly. It's directly to the ocean, because if you follow this, it's like this rocket is going to do something like this and pluff to the water. It's not going to up there
Keep going,
and
keep going up.
and go outside the spherical Earth. Because remember, this is GoPro camera, right?
Yeah,
That
and
is
they've been
why.
cutting. It's sort of like cutting when it gets to the center of the image, when it gets actually corrected, and you see that there's no curvature there.
Here is
It's
the
rare to see it.
Well, that's what we know
Here's-
happens.
here's-
If you went pointed down more, then it would be concave. That's how
Right.
we know it's
Yeah.
a fisheye camera.
I put in step forward. I accelerate the video, but this is the beginning, and you can see the tiny, very tiny column of smoke that don't even start forming. And if you pay attention and trying to keep the eyes on it, as it grows, as the columns start growing, it's like the rocket is coming towards, and of course to the ocean, right? But there you have it. Then I'm going to trying to stabilize and share the video. But what I'm saying is this technology is just a rocket, standard rocket going to the ocean and just crashing into the water. These don't go anywhere.
No, I don't think
At
so.
least we don't have any conclusive thing. And just for finish, because I know that this was a little mess, but this was an old video that somebody uploaded. I don't know if you saw it, because it said here, it says jeranism. We see too far, why you shouldn't believe you live on the globe. But this is a nice... Someone see this video before?
I've seen my video, but I think he took my image there of the flattening of the sun. Yeah.
Okay, but this is a really nice video, because when you see this kind of compression in the sun, as the sun starts rising up, for me at least, this is my opinion. Right. You can see how this gradient in the atmosphere is completely acting as a glass, and it doesn't matter how high you go or how low you are in the. It's the kind of the orientation as you are, pointing. But I just want to share, because I didn't know if you know this video, beside your name is on the screen, but because you can see how, when the sun starts going out from this gradient, it starts to reshaping itself to more spherical type of sun, but you can see how it compressed just in that gradient. And I showed this so many times before in the past, but the idea that NASA has this paper, when they say that is supposedly the astronomical, this is the astronomical gradient that it's not nice to have astronomical observation, because there is where the compressions start to happen, and it doesn't matter if you go at the ground level, if you go in the middle level, or you are 3,000 meters in the mountain, you always gonna have that kind of compression. This is from a mountain, this is not from a plane, but you can clearly see how it's start to compress. And well, when you see this video from a plane, it's also very conclusive thing. We need to understand that the object starts to compress at that kind of orientation. Yeah.
Now that video is supposed to be from the ISS, though, supposedly. But
Exactly. But it's the same kind of thing that you can film from a balloon or from a plane.
Yeah,
it looks like it was a plane, but I would think. They say it's the ISS.
Of course. Look at the clouds.
Yes.
When would you ever see clouds like that from the ISS?
Never.
Right?
Never.
Too close. Way too
Never,
close.
man.
Isn't it 400 kilometers up? Yeah, it's no way.
Yes, it's... Yeah, supposedly it's a flight on the ISS in 2016. Supposedly, right?
Supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. Everything is supposedly in terms
Although
of
it even looks like,
NASA.
doesn't that look like a plane wing? I don't know. Maybe I saw something wrong. It doesn't look like
it's cut sideways, almost like to hide a plane wing. I thought in the beginning, I was like, this person edited it to hide a plane wing. I was going to ask if it was from a plane, actually. I didn't even know it was an ISS.
Oh, I've seen so much
the
nonsense
sun looks close to me there.
Yeah, really.
Looks nothing like what they show of the sun in some of the other ISS footage.
93
like
million
Don't Bet
miles,
It and
Austin.
whatever.
93 million miles away. Don't question it.
And then I have here another one, which is just Aurora Borealis from a balloon. It's not nothing conclusive, nothing like that, okay? And this is an official video, but they drop like a satellite balloon to go up into the stratosphere with the Aurora Borealis on the head. And it's reached about 23 kilometers. It's not passing over the Aurora Borealis, but it's a nice high-altitude balloon camera, simply as that,
Yeah,
Bro,
it's pretty
that's
nice.
awesome,
At least
Bob.
you can see some stars.
Bob, do you agree that those lights are because potentially of a magnetic flux or a magnetic emission, if you will, the magnetic field basically being illuminated into the ether?
Well, actually, I think what they are, Austin, is noble gases being illuminated by the electrostatic field up there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I mean, I could be wrong, but it
Is
just
that
seems
for
logical.
because of the colors, Bob, or is that a variation of the colors? Anything that you can tell? It would be because gases do turn colors and glow. We know
Absolutely, especially neon. Neon is renowned for doing things like that. So, and in the presence of magnetic and electrostatic fields, they definitely fluoresce different colors and have different properties. I'm sure you guys all remember that video by Dan Dimension, right? That we covered on Globebusters. That was huge. So
maybe just a higher field coherency there that's making them visible.
Yeah, very possible. That's something that obviously I wish we had more data on it, but we do know that the magnetic flux field in those regions is high, so that would stand to reason. Your assumption is not unreasonable at all, Austin. So.
Gotcha. Sorry, just thinking out loud. I'm like fascinated by this thing.
It's just
me too.
Me too, man.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Jaron, there's been
some
some super chats. I guess maybe you want to read.
Oh, thank you. I have something up on my other screen. Commercial Sound and Video says, hopefully 9/11 was a waking point for people. I was told it was an inside, but it took me 5 years to look critically and see. I think that same story goes for many of us. I'm not sure if anybody has a story where they heard 9/11 and immediately said, oh, yeah, that must be true. At least for me, I heard it years before I actually looked into it. Mark W., thank you very much. And Anthony Seconte says, need to plug Test the Curve Day 2020 worldwide experiments. Everyone's need to get involved. Check it out on Facebook. Yeah, Anthony sent me a link to the Facebook page and the hashtag Test the Curve. I can't remember. Let me look it up after.
It's facebook.com/test the curve, and it occurs on March 20th and 21st this year, basically on the equinox. Not equinox. Yeah, equinox.
March 20th and 21st.
Right.
This year. Test the Curve. I'll probably head over to, I don't know what day of the week that is. If I have one of those days off, maybe I'll head over to the beach again to do some work, looking like I showed last time over at the Monterey Bay.
Friday and Saturday are the 20th and 21st.
Okay, so Saturday possibly. Saturday. 21st.
Can I give a shout out to Dr. John D?
Yeah, let's shout out John D.
Yeah, Dr. John D sent me up 4 high-powered lasers. So he's boxed them up, sent them me, and basically I'm going to do a test over a 6-mile stretch. I'm going to put them on different rungs on a large pair of ladders or steps, and hopefully we'll see the effect of each laser as it goes across the 6-mile stretch. So we'll have like one on top of the other.
Oh, I got you. You're going to be putting each laser on each rung of the ladder.
Yes, that's right, yeah. And
cool.
I'm going to have somebody from the side filming it as well. So we'll see a side-on view. We'll see the person receiving it. Obviously, I'll be filming it from, doing the observation myself. So we'll have 3 camera angles from it. And hopefully we'll be able to see what effect the different altitude has on each individual laser beam.
I'm not sure you'll be able to film it from the side. It could be wrong, but at least so far in my tests and experiments, you cannot see the laser like you think you can from the side.
Not unless it's foggy. There's no chance.
Yeah, it's just not what you would expect. You would think, because we see lasers over long distances, that from the side you would see that laser traveling, but really it seems, and again, I've even gone out, which is incredible to think, but I've just driven a mile or two away from my house and shot a laser straight up in the sky, and Missa can't see it. Even if she knows the exact direction I am, I've even been on a straight road, straight shot away from her, a mile or two away, and you can't see that laser heading up.
Well,
of course, science would tell you.
That's interesting. Dr. John D said that if you take a long exposure, there's probably a good chance that you'll capture it.
No, that's a good idea. See, that's where people think outside the box. I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Right.
I'm just talking about with your eyes. But long exposure, definitely possibility there. That'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, interesting, because you should probably catch some of the water that might be refracting sideways and more with the long exposure. But because I was going to say, if it's foggy, you can probably see it.
That's a great idea, though. Long exposure. Now I'm thinking about that. That would be awesome to see, because it's amazing what you see of the sky and everything else when you use long exposure compared to your eyes.
Yeah, so I was just waiting for the weather. The weather's terrible at the minute, and it's I've had these lasers now for like 3 days, and I'm itching to get out and have a bash with these, but just the weather's crap.
Are they
at least a couple of weeks?
Are they all different different colors?
Red and green. So I've got 2 of each.
Okay.
Where are you based at, Shane?
Blackpool, in the UK.
Did you get a chance to look at that Isle of Man video I sent you?
I did, yeah, and I also spoke in that interim time to Mark Doxey, so he gave me the details where he took the observation from, but I haven't had time to go through it properly.
Okay, yeah.
But beautiful photography, though, I have to say. Absolutely awesome.
Oh, yeah,
video.
any infrared stuff is just beautiful, but sometimes I get sent these videos and there's not enough information given that I can go and figure out where they were and do kind of that. That's why I love when Ranty does some work, because Ranty at least tells me, here's where I was, here's the height, here's a picture of my height, we know how far I was, here's what we're looking at, here's the height of that item, here's what the curve calculators beg the question to. That I appreciate. Sometimes people send videos and it's like, I'm 45 feet above the water, and here, look what I can see. I'm like, well, where were you? How high are those things across? I guess I got to do a bunch of research on your video. So that's kind of one of those situations.
Yeah, but I have noticed that a lot of people have started to do that now, which is good, because I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, the Globers were going bananas because they were always saying, well, you never provide any of this proof.
Right.
So, I sort of like made sure that I did that. And it's interesting.
Is that what turned you, did you decide to go straight into experimenting and doing tests and the observations when you realized there was something wrong with the ball, or were you already like that at technical, like what's your, because I don't know much about you like personally, but I know they do a lot of observations.
Yeah, well, I actually had a channel prior to this, and it was about chemtrails and stuff, so I was into conspiracies as such, but flat earth never interested me. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard of, and just didn't want to look at it at all. It was only because I was bored out of my school, because I'd looked at every other conspiracy, that I actually looked at flat earth. And within half an hour, I was really interested, and I binge watched like a whole bunch of videos over a couple of days. And then within a week, I'd gone out and bought a P900 and just decided to go and have a bash. I mean, I didn't know any of the community. I didn't even know there was live streams or forums or anything like that. In fact,
when was that?
About 4 years ago, and I put the videos out on my chemtrail channel, and then started talking about flat Earth then, and that's when people found me, and of course it brought the trolls over as well, and but I had a thick skin because I knew what I was seeing, and I was seeing an awful long way, far further than the globe should say I should see. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way around that, and you can just add to the preponderance of evidence, but also the comparative body of evidence, which is what's coming up right now, and that's what it is really amazing what's going on. I think just the amount of evidence for the different observations.
Well, the seeing too far is
they're
so
given
far.
slack and stuff.
Yeah, just the seeing too far is at this point far beyond concluded and finalized. I mean, there's no questions there. The only thing is now the next step for them, and I'm sure when we see Bob the Science Guy today, the only answer is going to be that the globe Earth presents itself because of its atmosphere in a way that makes it look flat. And so you'll be able to see horizons beyond where the geometric horizon is, because we don't live in a geometric place, that we live in a dynamic place, and that areas beyond geometry are able to be lifted up due to the bending of light around the curve. That's their only response at this point. It has to be. Because what else can you say? You can't say you're seeing behind curves. You can't say you're seeing around curves. So because you have to have line of sight, but they're just going to say that, I'm sure with the black swan argument, he's going to say that water that we see there has been lifted up. What else can he say? What do you think, Shane?
I think he's definitely going to say that, and in which case I'm hoping the audience will all in unison say, can you prove looming? Can you prove that something's been loomed up behind something else? Because I've been asking for over 3 years for a demonstration of that, and I'm yet to see one. So good luck on that. So if you're going to claim looming...
It will always be the proof of what they're trying. They're going to use the evidence of what they're trying to prove as proof.
In looming, shouldn't it also be inverted as well?
Yes, it should.
Oh,
and isn't it relative to the horizon anyway?
That's what looming by definition is.
Right.
Well, what looming would do, looming would give you the opposite of what the inferior mirage is. So the inferior mirage turns it upside down but underneath, and looming would turn it upside down above it. So it would look like a superior mirage.
So it's going to be a whole new kind of looming that doesn't invert things. So
it makes them look flat.
Taboo's going to have to add that to his amazing things that flat earthers have discovered, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Another one, yeah.
So Renty, have you been like trapping trolls and stuff? You kind of giving them a chance to try to make a case, and then you...
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ranty will poke the bear better than anybody. He loves to poke.
Go ahead, Jared.
No, I was just saying you love to poke the bear whenever possible.
Well, yeah. Well, what I do is I let them, like you say, I give them enough rope to hang themselves, and that's what they do. I mean, because they're used to people challenging them. They're not used to doing presentations. So when they come on and do a presentation, quite often I can sit there, listen to them talking for half an hour, 40 minutes, or even debating them, and pick out one thing that they said 40 minutes ago and be like, this just unravels all of your argument. Everything that you've said since then has just been completely undone by what you said at the start. So I can lead them down a path and let them, and sort of like direct the conversation to get them to a point. And before they even know it, they're in a trap and they can't get out, because we know where we want them to get to. And they happily go down that path every single time. They walk down it with the knowledge of the globe, that they've been told, until they realize they're trapped, and then they have to run away or cry or scream or something.
Or take off their shirt and show their mankini. It just depends what they're doing.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's always gotta be.
I couldn't believe it could get any better, and then he showed me that, and I was like, no way. But yeah.
Certainly.
So yeah, one of the things you were talking about before was obviously about gyroscopes and obviously with navigation and stuff. Well, if you think about the British Royal Navy, and you think that you had that news article from in the 1900s, Jeren, or was it the early 20th century? And it was saying that basically it was heretic that they were teaching that the Earth was a globe. Well, if you think that the British Navy basically owned the seas from the 16th century to the late 18th century, how did they navigate if they actually believed the Earth was a globe, if it was being taught in England that the Earth was flat?
Right, yeah. Doesn't make any sense. None of their stories make any sense. That's why I brought up the movie about the 16th century explorers trying to prove that the Earth is, I thought that Aristophanes proved it in 300 BC and showed the exact size. He was only off by 1%, and they basically designed the entire longitude-latitude system around that. Even though nobody even been to the south, they just basically did an inverse of the top, called it the bottom. From that point on, why wouldn't everybody know the size of Earth? Why wouldn't there be globes? How could there be no globes? It just makes no sense. It would have been so easy to construct a plaster of Paris or a paper mache any kind of thing.
Yeah, and the Egyptians were making constructions that cannot be equal and not even understood. Yeah, they didn't have a ball.
You're
Earth.
telling
They
me
didn't
the
need
Egyptians
it
didn't get a piece of a round piece of something and carve it, or I mean, it's just ridiculous that there wouldn't be any evidence of that.
The best thing I heard on my last show was from Brenda. So somebody came in and said that I've got a proof of flat Earth. What's that? It says, well, Kansas is supposed to be as flat as a pancake. And Brenda turned around and said, well, actually, when they said flat, what they actually meant to say was smooth.
What?
And she doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on it. The chat was lit up with people saying smooth earther.
Right. Oh my goodness. And have you seen the model of the Mississippi River and surroundings that they created in a university? I think it was Mike Helmick that showed me.
Yes,
you can find
really
it, but
big one.
It's super flat, perfectly flat.
It's a really nice. I'm going to stop sharing, but before I want to just, because talking about the Aurora Borealis, NASA, of course, they are making a lot of research in the Aurora Borealis, trying to measure the voltage and the current that the Aurora Borealis creates.
Electricity.
Yeah, talking again, one more time, talking about electricity. This was in 2015 from the Poker Flat area that NASA has to, do the sounding rocket experiment. But this is a nice article to read. Of course, it's a little technical, but it's a nice. And, it's looking at these images from the Aurora Borealis. This is a plane, a plane taking departure and, reaching not the cruiser altitude, because this is very early in the departure of the plane. But when you see, for example, this is big rocket supposedly going to space. This is the sounding rocket that NASA launched into the Aurora Borealis, and this is like just a normal flight path when reach certain altitude and start going straight to, going anywhere in the world. But all these rocket launches, they are all finished going down. It's amazing, right? You never see that line extended beyond the horizon, and there you have the rocket in space.
Even the side view should be. You should be able
even
to
the
see
side
it.
view, exactly.
No, all
never.
The side ones
never.
I've seen. We've seen that one. Remember of the SpaceX launch down in LA that caused all the big stir because of the.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember that.
Yeah. I have in my library as a nice.
That's a great time lapse.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, let me just finish with that rocket because it was this one where you clearly see how it's coming from the side, going up into the release the fuel or some water like we see before, and then it's going down,
right,
and going down and disappear into the ocean. and maybe somebody could, from the Globbers could launch a balloon synchronized with launch from SpaceX or some other some other.
You can clearly see the airplanes going straight, right?
Yeah, exactly, and you can
just
film
like
it.
that. It's in orbit.
Ta-da!
And you can film it. Because even this rocket from the Chinese, here you can clearly see how it's going to take like a straight path, and appears to going down, but not in arc. It's just straight line.
Right.
It's not following the arc. It's because this is like
or
a missile,
the curve of the Earth. It's
or
a
like
much
a
smaller
plane.
ball than we've ever. It's a tiny little ball. It's a Columbus ball.
Exactly. It's a very tiny little ball. So I'm gonna finish my share screen.
Okay. Thank you, Iru, for that.
No,
share screen.
please. Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to present, Ranty, or no? Didn't remember if you wanted to show anything.
No, not really. Not really.
Just highlighting your show tonight. It should be good. Bob the Science Guy explaining the black swan. Finally. Whew.
Well, Ranty.
So I have a feeling he's going to come up with, what Ruhif said, which was infinite over 6R refraction.
Did he really say that?
Yes, that's the new claim.
I couldn't
infinite
believe
over
that.
6R.
So we really can see our own ass with a telescope if we try hard enough.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I'm like, well, so no observation. You could see 1,000 miles if you had a big enough telescope, but if you can't see 1,001,
No, that's their story, and it's getting to the point now where all the observations don't matter anymore. It's the same thing I heard from the IIG, because it doesn't matter if we see 50 miles, 500 miles, or 1,000 miles. That simply the light is traveling through the atmosphere along the curve of the Earth, and therefore, again, it's ridiculous. If we don't see something, it's because of the curve of the Earth. If we do see something, it's because of the curve of the Earth. Can you imagine a easier way to get away with whatever you want?
Yes, it's a religion. That kind of answer is based on a religion.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a religion, I mean.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, and at that point, you have to chalk it up to that. I mean, there is no other way around it. And that's exactly what they say. That why can't I see the shore across the water? Well, it's because the curve of the Earth is in the way. Well, why can I see that building 50 miles away? Well, because the light is traveling around the curve of the Earth. So how do you argue with that person? How do you disprove that person? If you see too far, it's because of the curve of the Earth. If you don't see something close by, it's because of the curve of the Earth. I mean, what are you going to do?
Circular reasoning.
Thanks for all the globe evidence, you flatards.
Right, exactly. And then call anything that globe earthers or anything that flat earthers produce, you just call it globe evidence. Doesn't matter. If we see the smoke plumes at the Salton Sea, that's because the Earth is curved. If we don't see them, well, you don't see them because you're being blocked by the curve of the Earth. So, I mean, there's nothing you could possibly show them, literally nothing, that doesn't fall into those two categories. If I can't see something, curve of the Earth. If I can see something, curve of the Earth. And light bends. So, I mean, at this point, you have to just, I mean, we can keep coming up with evidence and keep coming up with, and that's why I do think that the so-called black swan is great too. But again, they're just going to come up with the exact same answer. We just haven't heard it yet. Here it comes today. Bob the Science Guy will just say exactly. Now there's an infinite over 6R refraction. Well, great. Then it doesn't matter how far we see. Somebody could show the South Pole from the North Pole. Well, why do we see that? Well, because the Earth is a ball, and we can see around the curve as the light travels only in that path.
Yeah, but you know, the magnificent thing about it is, think about the revolution now in communications. Because of the fact that light and all RF and EM waves will now conform to the curvature of the Earth reliably every single day of the year, we can make microwave shots from here to the UK, one shot.
Certainly.
No problem.
GPS signals should just be sent along the path of the Earth, and you could use basically one satellite in space will provide all of GPS.
And flat earthers discovered it, so I think we should get a Nobel.
That's
go with your Nobel.
Right, yeah, I haven't gotten mine yet, but I'm still waiting. I'm hopeful.
Bob, you should get like a bookcase or some sort of, you're going to have some sort of unit to put multiples. It's not going to just be one. You're going to need a whole shelving unit.
I know. I am a Glober rock star.
Right, guys, I'm gonna have to drop because I'm gonna have to start setting my shows up in a minute. So
I know how that goes. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. That's Ranty, and check out his channel. We'll be done here in a few minutes, and then head over there and get ready for some fun. Bob the Science Guy, and then after that, Rude Earther showing some gyroscopic experiments. Sounds good. Thanks for joining us, Ranty.
No worries, and thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you in a bit.
Shane. Thanks, Shane.
Later, Shane. All right, that was Ranty, so check him out tonight. Should be fun. And just a reminder of what we did yesterday, so anybody who didn't get a chance, you might want to check out my channel. We had an interview or a presentation by Rodrigo just about his Space Crack magazine. By the way, I did put those links to the magazine in this description as well. So if you didn't get a chance yesterday and you want to download that magazine, like I said yesterday over and over again, it's very unique, very different, and it's just great to see somebody put something together like that, and I'm looking forward to future volumes. And I still didn't read the supplement, so I've got to get on that. Sorry, Rodrigo. All right. Commercial sound and video. Thank you for the super chat again. He says, would the Coriolis Force exist on the ocean too?
Sorry, I was going to say something.
How would ancient sailors using a sextant measuring 2D off the atmospheric dome account for that? Shouldn't football field goalers figure that in? Yes, the Coriolis Force clearly, as Ranty said, or as Euro said, somebody said, exists on turning platforms, exists on merry-go-rounds. Those kind of things would have a Coriolis Force, but not the Earth. Obviously,
my golf game is standing proof of Coriolis.
Yeah, exactly. No, it would exist everywhere and doesn't. Simply put, you can launch cannonballs up in the sky and they'll land back in their cannons. So,
yeah, like Newton said, like the thought experiment.
Thought experiment. It's very easy, yeah. And then you just teach children with songs of Twinkle Twinkle. And it's very easy. So, yeah, anyway, check out Space Crack Mag. That was a fun show yesterday. And
on the Aereo supplement, the guy who he sent me an email today with an entire new report on long-distance sighting of fair weather mountains by U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey Impossible on a Globe Earth from 1911. And
nice.
It's another long report, so that's going to be another...
just make it another volume, because I think
it's very large and it's very detailed. He went overboard. He has a conclusion. The whole thing is an academic paper, many images. So I just received it today. I think he probably seen it that we've talked about his work. So I'm very grateful for him. Thank you so much, Aedius. I don't know who he is. But we can see by what he's doing that he's serious, and it is what we're seeing. And Bob has his friend as well, probably going to do some work. We're going to see what's going on there, and Bob. And there's a lot of people like that. Yep.
Yeah, no. And then Enrique, who has helped me out with a lot of experiments and tests and has been doing some observations, same thing, of some distant mountains that simply don't make sense. I've got to talk to him a little bit and get some of the numbers down because I'm not sure that I have them right yet. But what it looks like, and it's what he's saying, is it's simply impossible on a globe. We're seeing huge amounts of distant mountains, and he's taking them basically from one side of California to the other. Not quite, because he's looking at the Sierra Nevadas from across the valley, but we're talking over 100-mile distant observations. And he's going from different elevations and producing the mountains look identical, which they shouldn't.
Are you showing this?
No, no, because I have the video on my phone, but I haven't. We're going to work on it this weekend because I want to get some of the numbers right. What he's showing me, I completely understand and get, but it needs to be refined a little bit. But basically what it is if you take photos of, say, mountains at a super high elevation, and then you go down to a super low elevation, but you're able to see the same amount of that distant mountain, that should be impossible. Because really, when people take distant mountains and they say, oh, we shouldn't be able to see this, it's very easy for globe earthers to come back and say, well, you're actually not seeing as much of the mountain as you think, right? That's what they did with Canigou, right? Canigou, they'll just say, oh, well, that's actually not the whole mountain chain. You're actually only seeing the top peaks. But imagine if you took a photo of Canigou from, say, 9,000 feet up. And you're able to see you can see the peaks, you can see the valleys. Okay, great. And then you go down to 1,000 feet and you see the same peaks and valleys. Well, that proves that you are seeing the entire mountain.
Exactly. Another thing that in Colorado, if anybody is coming into Colorado from the east side, coming in on I-70, for example, or 76, and you are looking at the Rockies, the range of the Rockies, you can literally see the mountains going from Colorado Springs all the way up to Fort Collins, which is well over 100 miles, and there really isn't any variance at all in the height of the tops of those. And so what are they saying then? That there's the mountains themselves are in this huge concave type of configuration? I don't think so. The average height of them is still around 12,000 feet, and you can see that from the Springs Mountains all the way to Fort Collins.
Right.
I mean, there just isn't any deviation, and there should be well over a mile.
No, the only deviation will be is if you move further away or move closer. The closer you get, the bigger they get. The further away you move, the smaller you get. Why? Well, that's perspective. That's how that
right.
works.
But other than that, they stay absolutely linear and, the same size, prospectively.
So that's why I think what Enrique's doing is brilliant, and we'll look at it a little closer just to make sure I completely understand it. But it is clear to me that if he just showed me, hey, here's these mountains, and I'm 400 or I'm 500 feet high, and here's these mountains. Well, that observation in and of itself does nothing. But if you show me those mountains from 3,000 feet high, and then you show me those mountains from ground level, and you can see the same amount of mountain, then all of a sudden, then you can say, well, why aren't we missing, say, 3,000 feet of this 9,000-foot mountain? If I just show it in one and I say, okay, here's these mountains, how are we able to see that? Somebody could say, oh, well, you're actually not seeing the bottom 3,000 feet. It's actually over the curve. It's being blocked by the bulge. But if you're able to show the mountains don't change as you get higher and lower, then that tells me something big. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, I've been talking about some similar to this because I've been to the Grand Canyon through both sides, and there's something. Anyone who's driven from Phoenix north has seen this. When you get to a point where you see the other side in Utah, it got me to thinking that altitudes is also something to compare. So we sort of generating collectively with observations, and something I want to do as well. But it is becoming a database that needs to be organized, in my opinion, in terms of, there's so many videos out there, but we haven't had an effort, and we need this from people who are willing to do it, and researchers to summarize some of the observations in all the different videos that we have information. So you're saying Ranty provides a number of observations, for instance, observations and information, and if that is put in a database that can be compared, there's a lot that we don't know what can be found, but it would be very interesting. It would add to consolidating the information, in my opinion.
Well, that's why I think we're really at the beginning of a lot of this. Is you need to explain to some people, because a lot of us have gone out. I'm one of them, and gone and tried to do observations for a first time, not understanding what I'm trying to look for, not understanding what I'm supposed to do, and so the results are less than perfect. But then you kind of watch what other people do, and that's when you get the idea. I mean, the whole frozen lake test by Grotto 1 is huge. Right. People see that, and now anybody by any frozen lake can do that same experiment. You just have to have the time and the will to want to do it.
But your latest observations are also quite telling, from the 28 miles.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's great. I mean, and it took them going out a couple times, right, to get it right, because they've gone out, they've done the 19 mile. When I was out there, we did 12 and a half. You just have to go out there, and then again, the other hard part is you're never going to have. Well, I don't want to say never. It's rare that you would have perfect conditions. And so sometimes it takes going out there a few days, or going out there like we did in June and then having to go back in December to show the differences. So it takes more work than just, I'm going to go here on a Friday, I'm going to do this. Yeah, but we are getting
it needs a camping trip, a whole people should organize that instead of a conference, a research camp, everybody goes and they do observations collectively, bring all their cameras and equipment and have at it at some spot.
Well, that's kind of what
share
they did.
Information.
That's kind of what they did at the lake, at Bear Lake with Taboo, and what they did in Idaho, and was it Idaho? Nevada? Whatever.
It's going on there.
Yeah, it's going to be, and it's just going to come more and more that we're going to see it. And I know John D is doing some continued work, and there's people down who's the guy down south that's going to have the boat? Doc Michael. Right. So there's a lot of people that are stepping up and going to do some stuff. All right.
Joe Mama.
Joe Mama. Sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
Getting everybody confused. All right. So let's close it out here. We've just got about 5 minutes before the 3-hour mark. So let's just say our goodbyes. Bob, what's going on with Globebusters? What's coming up for you?
No, just Globebusters on Sunday, and I'm actually batting around 2 or 3 different show themes. I haven't settled on one yet, so I'll just let it be a surprise.
Sounds good to me. Looking forward to it. All right, and we already said goodbye to Shane, obviously. Austin, what's coming up for you? What do you got going on?
Just going live tonight per usual, and that's about it. I got a few things in the works. I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a book out of a page out of your book, and go talk to some people on the street and document that. So that should be fun. But as of now, just the regular weekly night streams.
All right, that'd be great. Looking forward to that. Good. And Iru, what's going on with you? Are you going to be able to do a presentation on Thursday? Or we need to probably talk.
I believe yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
I believe yes. But let me finish, because this complete weekend from Saturday to Monday, because here in the Monday in Argentina is like a holiday, we're going to have our second Flat Earth conference here in Argentina, in the same place that we did the last year. So I'm going to be there, and I don't know when I get back. I'm going to maybe come back on not Thursday, but Tuesday. And I need to put a few things together in my work, things like that. So, but I believe I'm going to be available to do on Thursday.
All right, well,
and
we'll say it's tentative for now. Tentative for now, Iru on the Thursday presentation show doing his Spanish presentation. And if he can't, we'll have somebody step in and do a presentation. I'll find somebody. Don't worry.
Okay, and beside that, I'm very proud because I did my first live stream in English in my English channel. So everyone that want to support me and subscribe, it's npt.redpill@gmail.
And you did a really good job too, Iru.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I have that issue at the beginning, like 12 minutes, believing that I'm presenting images, and I just was with one image, but that was my nerves that betrayed me. But no, beside that, I feel very, very nice to do. It's not easy do a live stream in other language, but
no.
I believe the idea was, anyone out there that see that video is going to understand the core point of the presentation. And I'm started being more active in my English channel. So maybe tonight or tomorrow I'm going to upload in another video that I'm editing. But that is my plan. I was trying to reach that 1 video, 2 video per week, including maybe one of those video be a live show. So I invite everyone to check it out. And beside that, like I tell you before, I'm going to be in this 3-day Flat Earth conference, so I'm going to be busy with that.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Zero. And we got links to everybody's stuff down in the description, everybody but Ranty, because he joined last second, so I'll add that after the show, and then all the show notes will be in there as well. But links to Iru's English channel, his Spanish channel, his Patreon, obviously, and I always bring up Patreon because if people want to support what they like, obviously many of us have one. Obviously Austin has one, so Witsit gets it. You can do /jeranism, you can do /anthropology, you can do /Nur para Todos, you can do /Globebusters. So there's lots of ways to support. And like I said, it's great because if you gave, each of us $1, if you just did that through PayPal, which you can't do for me anymore because I don't have one, but if you did do that, they take like 39 cents out of each dollar. The person that you're giving it to would only get 61 cents. But by doing it through Patreon, you could go there and give each person $1. And let's say you give 10 people $1, they would only take that 39 cents once. So everybody would get a much higher percentage. So it's a better way to support multiple creators. And we ask that if you enjoy the shows and appreciate them and want to support the show, we would really appreciate that. Also, when you send Super Chats, which is fantastic, Super Chats take 30%. So, a $10 Super Chat ends up with only 7 coming to the creator and 3 going to Google. If you do it through Patreon, it is a much better percentage for the creator. But we appreciate Super Chats. Thank you very much. I would never say don't send those if you feel inclined. It really does help keep the shows going. Who did I miss? Rodrigo? What do you got?
Hi, Jerry. Yeah. Well, this week, I don't know. Looking forward, I guess, to Globebusters Sunday. Gonna work, see what's going on for the next magazine. I have this new report by Adios to set up. There's people offering their help. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll see how it goes. And thank you so much for helping out with that and for highlighting some of the points there. There's a lot more in that one issue, and hopefully I can make it better. There's even a designer that contacted me to say that he would like to help with it.
Oh, nice.
It's good, but people are welcome, especially you guys. Like always, as you know, Jaren, I talked to you about this in Amsterdam, and there's something I still need to meet with you, Edu, about the manuscript. I don't know if you're gonna do it. We ended up not doing it yet, about the Blue Beam.
Yeah. Don't
you guys.
Don't make me feel like this, man.
No. Just let me know when you can do it. And we'll do it.
The presentation is far more important. Just to let you know.
No, I know that, man. I know that. Sure. But both of you are Patreon, so I am not.
We just need 1 hour to go through some stuff, and it should be fine. For what we did. But that's it. And so you guys, feel free to contribute. I mean, I'm probably going to talk about. There's so much that's interesting. We know Kubrick, Artemis, MK Ultra, so much, so many bits, and also astronauts and anthropology and some of the other themes. So I would really like to hear feedback from people. I love that, even if it's critical, of course. And yeah, as long as it's not just name calling, like trolling, that's just not allowed. Especially on my channel, this is one of the things I cleared it out from trolls, so I rarely get them anymore.
It's always good. That's the great thing about Simon Dan sending people over to your channel is you just need to spend a day going through the comments. You get to get rid of a lot of people. You're like, that was good. Thank you for that. Now in the future, I don't have to worry about that as much. So, All right. Appreciate everybody joining me for the lounge. It was fun. Appreciate everybody listening, everybody in the chat. It's been a good time. Obviously for me, what do I got going on? Let's see, tomorrow I go to an auction, but Sunday we have Globebusters, Monday back to Raw, and then we've got a presentation, whether it's Iru or somebody else, coming on Thursday. So if you want to support the show, patreon.com/jeranism, as I already mentioned. If you want to send me something, you can do that as well. Jeranism, P.O. Box 3044, Merced, California 95344. Any final words from everybody? Are we ready to go?
Peace.
All right. Sounds
good. Night.
I remind you guys to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, guys. We'll see you on Sunday for Globebusters, 12 noon Pacific. Till then, this has been Jeranism. Peace.